Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of T3PO Live. My name is VashSky. Thank you so much for coming on in. The water is warm, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us at our new time. That is 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. And as I was talking with somebody in the background who's going to be joining us very, very shortly, it's daylight saving time coming up pretty soon here. I believe, March 11th, if I'm not mistaken, right there. Maybe the night Saturday going into Sunday. So yeah, make sure you adjust your times, folks, appropriately so that you can go ahead and tune into all of our great programming here on the That Park Place Network. But let's go ahead and get our wonderful panel on in here and talk about some amazing stories today. Ooh, we got a lot of it. I'm still organizing the show in the background, to be quite honest with you, and I had a lot of prep time today. So it's been quite the day indeed. Let's go ahead and get them in here. LW Ghosts and Nolan Thunder.
Vash, I'm so angry. You brought up daylight savings time. You completely ruined my daylight savings joke I was going to make, and now I got.
Well, go ahead and tell it anyway. Somebody missed it. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
I was going to be like, it's daylight savings time. I'm not used to this. We got to make a thing about, saving candlelight or something using T3PO. I don't know, but.
On the other hand, skip that joke. But anyway.
Oh, boy. It's a historic day, actually, Lou. I don't know, maybe Nolan, you heard, perhaps? Oh, yes. Today is a very historic day.
Today Bob Iger gets fired?
Oh, well, it is Bob Iger related, interestingly enough. I don't know if you guys know
this. This was the day he predicted the weather correctly, way back when?
No, it's the day.
I know there was at least one.
Well, he predicted today incorrectly, actually, because today is the 5-year anniversary of Bob Chapek being named the chief executive officer at the Walt Disney Company, right there. Oh, yes. What a day it was, right? It's
yeah. What if they gave it Chapek and nobody cared?
It was quite the day, quite the interesting day indeed. But we all know what kind of happened there, which is really unfortunate, at least for the Walt Disney Company, that is. And especially for Bob Chapek, because he's not even in media at this point. I don't even know where he is. Anybody know where Bob Chapek is? Please, chat. Help me out.
Somewhere afloat, probably. I would be if I were him. You know what occurs to me looking at that picture, though? You know, when Lucas and the gang first built these spaceships, they famously bought a bunch of plastic model kits and broke them up and stuck them together and then spray painted them all white or whatever. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work so well when you make it life size. I'm looking at all that, what do you call it, sci-fi gingerbread on the edge of the Millennium Falcon there. And
yeah,
it just, I don't know.
There are problems.
It reads as set to me, you know, not as shit. But that's just me.
Let's also not forget, like, if we're talking about 5 years ago at this time, do you guys remember where you were? Because I remember a lot of people being kind of scared of certain things that were happening at the world this time. It must have been very comforting for the Walt Disney Company to know they were heading into a very uncertain future without, you know, their leader at the helm. Instead of just throw a new guy into this mess. Am I the only one who's a little annoyed by that?
He never left the helm or the shower. And B, the new guy wasn't so new. He was kind of predictable. So I don't know. Great moments in corporate leadership history, it wasn't, you know?
You would think that perhaps somebody on the board would have said, hey, wait a minute, hang on here. What are we doing? Why are we moving so fast? Especially because I know for a fact Bob Iger was getting reports back from Shanghai and its closure, which had already happened by this time. Remember, Shanghai had closed for the pandemic by the time this picture was taken. Or at least the announcement was made anyway. And still, Bob Iger just said, whoop, I'm out. So you really do have to wonder what was going on in the background regarding all of this was. But speaking of the background and something that is making all kinds of news this morning, late last night the word came through that Kathleen Kennedy may be through with the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm. There you go, that Park Place. Kathleen Kennedy reportedly leaving Lucasfilm sometime this year, according to Hollywood Trades. This by Marvin Montanaro, February 25th, 2025. Let's go ahead and read down here. After more than a decade at the helm of Lucasfilm, 13 years, I believe, to be exact, Kathleen Kennedy is reportedly preparing to retire, leaving Lucasfilm by the end of 2025, according to a recent report by Puck, P-U-C-K, with The Hollywood Reporter soon following suit. And now, I believe Variety obviously has it. I think Forbes was recently reported to have it, so people are running with this pretty big. While rumors of her departure have circulated for years, this time it appears to be more than just fan speculation. Yet, as fans rejoice over the potential end of what many view as a disastrous tenure, there's a harsh truth that must be acknowledged. Kathleen Kennedy may be leaving Lucasfilm, but the damage she inflicted on Star Wars will linger for years to come. So here's the thing. This news, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night my time. This came through, which was very odd. Matt Bellany, with his piece on PUCK, was very definitive. Apparently, according to 3 of his sources, this was happening. So that's why I think people were a little bit leery, because obviously we've heard reports about this in the past. But 3 sources close to Bellany, it's a pretty done deal as far as I'm concerned. If you realize Bellany's history and his affiliations therein. What was your guys' initial reaction, and what do you think might be headed towards the future for Lucasfilm?
It's the damage has already been done, and her people are at all levels of it. So they can give her a bunch of awards and write it off as her advancing age and wanting, as they always say in these circumstances, to spend more time with my family. And everybody knew it was going to happen. They just didn't know when. It is interesting that there is very little of hers left in the pipeline anymore. I mean, Indy's dead. Marvel's close. Star Wars is very dead. And so, hail and farewell. That's my attitude.
And maybe Children of Blood and Bone. Remember, that was a pet project that she had for a long time, and then Bob Chapek said, "No, you're not going to do that." So that was very, very early on, when speculation and rumor started developing that maybe she might be exiting soon. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I think you're right, Lou. I mean, if you look at the slate here, is there anything for Disney Plus regarding Star Wars coming up?
It's interesting. It's interesting to me also who hasn't been gone to for when the Bond thing happened, last week. They went to everybody who'd ever played Bond, been in Bond, whatever, for a comment. I don't see any interviews of Leslie Headland. I wonder why that is, asking what she thinks about this. Or Charmaine, what's her name?
Bates-Chinoy.
Oh yeah, or for that matter, even Ray, or any of these people that she basically brought into the deal and made them for whatever they were, for however brief and limited. It's funny how nobody seems to have anything else to say about it.
Better yet, let's ask George Lucas. Let's see his opinion on the matter.
I would be very interested to see what George Lucas has to say, or maybe even Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau and any of those people closely associated with Disney. However, as Lou mentioned before, we haven't heard anything from them. Nolan, I mean, from my perspective, I look at something like this and I go, this is exactly what the patient needed 5 years ago. And now you're attempting to deliver the penicillin to a patient that might have already expired. At this point, we know that apathy is kind of set in at this point, and that people are not as interested in Star Wars than they have been before. Indiana Jones, we know that story all too well. Nolan, do you think there's any hope for the Star Wars franchise going forward? And who would even helm this division of Disney in the first place?
Well, there's always hope, but it really reminds me of, say there's a crazy person on the loose and he burns someone's house down, and they find out the guy who was behind it a good 20 years later. The beloved attraction's gone. I mean, the most we can hope for is someone to come in with a fresh vision and rebuild to make something else that's just as great as what came before. And I just don't think there's anyone inside Lucasfilm that has that way, because we were talking about the radio silence going on here. I would assume if you're Leslie Headland or Dave Filoni or any of them, you probably hold Kathy in a lot of regards. I don't see very many reasons why they would feel like ill will to her behind the scenes.
She was at least as important to Leslie Headland's career as her former mentor and rapist guy Harvey was. So whether she sees either of them as real mentors or just stepping stones, I don't know. And frankly, Scarlett, I don't care.
But either way, I just feel so neither of them would really have any reason to really challenge her, because I don't think she's really done any wrong to her, unless your name is, of course, Gina or something like that. Yeah. So I think you would need a person who could come out as an outsider with a fresh vision for the brand to revamp, because we've seen some other, maybe not to the same scale, but we've seen companies in bad positions that needed a rejuvenation. We know, heck, the Walt Disney Company in the past was in danger of a hostile takeover, of a breakup, and then Michael Eisner and such stepped in and managed to save the brand. Was it in as bad as Star Wars? I personally don't think so.
Not even close. Not even close. No. But and that's the question. Can I raise my hand at the back and say, "Excuse me, what does Disney need with a dead brand? Why don't they come up with something new?" Because there's so much baggage to overcome. If the greatest possible candidate, and I don't know who that would be, came in and was going to bring back all the greatness of Star Wars and Indy and everything that she's ruined, it's got to be 10 times more expensive, time-consuming, difficult, and you're fighting an uphill battle every step of the way, as opposed to, hey, we have some great new ideas. Try this.
So that brings a bigger question then. Does that mean that we're going to see someone else inside Lucasfilm, say a Dave Filoni, or I know he's technically not employed with them, like a Jon Favreau, come in and, they can get some work that might be a little bit more respected amongst fans, but it's probably not going to get the brand power to cover these costs. Is Disney going to pull like they did with, say, a Power Rangers years ago, play with it for a bit, and then cut their losses and be done with it? Or is they're going to hold this to the end because this is so important to Bob's ego? I think that's a greater question here.
Doesn't the buck stop with Bob? Isn't that what Bob Iger said back in 2019 now that he said that in the Hollywood Reporter, I believe, when talking about D.B. Weiss and the other Game of Thrones writer. I can't think of his name at this point right here. But anyway, much has changed ever since then, that's for sure. I have to wonder, I think Lou makes a great point. It's like, why don't you actually continue on? But do you feel it's kind of sunk cost at this point, that they have to continue on with Star Wars because of how much they've invested into it? $2 billion in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge investments and $4 billion.
Because it's there and it's done, and it wouldn't have made a lot of sense to make it with the original people, but they didn't want to do that. So there you go. They have a lovely, expensive office building behind the scenes in the hotel, and a great recipe for blue shrimp. And net, that's what they've got. So, and by the way, that guy in that picture, he ain't gonna live forever. And the crazy guy who dropped his pants at the BAFTA, he ain't gonna live forever. And I don't care how much CGI magic AI you can do with these people. People don't go see movies to see ghosts, myself included. They just don't. So
they don't.
And indeed, I would suggest that the big problem with this particular situation and with Hollywood in general is that the quote unquote new stars have no staying power. They are interchangeable ciphers. The only person who does of the more recent crop is probably Henry Cavill, and he might get Bond. Huh? Yeah, Keanu Reeves, right? But he's like said more or less that he's done because his body can't take it anymore. So I don't know, but even they are of a previous generation to all these young interchangeable androgynous punks that are presented as stars for us to accept that fact regardless. And I don't know, personally, I don't feel invested in any of those people. And let's remember this guy, until they made him a character that his personality just kind of fit, he was nobody too. So, and all these people I see in the chat, a lot of people talking about, well, this one has to leave and this one has to leave. Folks, the rot is deeper than you think. It extends levels and levels and levels below the more famous names. And if you try and fire all those other people for having screwed it up, you know what they're going to say? The same thing that Indy's worst enemies used to say. I was just following orders. How can you blame me for doing what I was told to do? And that's a good question. That will happen in the Gina trial too, by the way, a lot, I predict. So.
And you raise a great point there, Lou, too, because you talk about the rot going deeper than what everyone expects. Say we do get fresh blood coming into Lucasfilm for the first time in who knows how long. And they get there, and think about it. They have been developing this stuff for years and years and years. There's a lot of employees that are probably very loyal to Kathy, who probably will go out the door with her. There's a lot of different types of programs and stuff they've been working on, but it's all like sequel trilogy related or a lot of stuff that people don't care about. Is it easier? This is just a theoretical scenario, but is it easier to start from the ground up with a whole new studio? Because fans have proven that they can make prop recreations. They're doing all sorts of things with AI, and heck, not even AI, just 3D renders, because Star Wars is one of the most popular things to make fan creations based off of in the first place. If you have to overhaul everything, do you might as well just start fresh anyways with a brand new IP? Is it a lost cause?
You can start fresh with an IP and not have to bring along the Disney baggage. One of the great points that the guys doing the Disney files, Alan, the
D-files.
The D-files, they made the point. They said for so many years, everybody who wanted to be an animator, wanted to be an Imagineer, they all wanted to go to CalArts and then go to work for Disney. Well, now with the cost of software and technology so low to make something that's pretty damn professional looking, or at least good enough to go to a Sundance festival or whatever, what do they need with the studio? What does a creative person need with a mouse? There you go. God in a starship. Same question I keep asking. But no, serious. When we saw Godzilla -1, and then they told us what it costs and how many people were involved. That could happen here. That could happen anywhere. And you don't need a KK or a Favreau or any of these other people to do it.
And if I can follow up something you're saying there, Lou, you have to look at Godzilla too, because the series is like what, over 70 years old now? Can't remember off the top of my head. That franchise wasn't like with Star Wars, to where, you know, Lucas had it for a long time and then Kathy had it for a long time. Godzilla has been through many different talented directors and producers,
often simultaneously with different groups of creatives working at the same time, because the character is kind of public domain-ish.
Yes, it stayed close to Toho, who was very big on keeping their brand power and not having someone just come in and take a sledgehammer to it, which is why it's kind of had a bit of a renaissance here over the past decade because of quality. But the reality is, a lot of different people didn't have the same tools that a lot of their predecessors had. They used to film in like this giant, massive pool outside of Toho Studios where they would film all the water scenes for Godzilla. That thing got paved in like 2004. Now, did all the new directors come in who've made the recent films like, well, we don't have the pool, we can't make the movie now? No, they found their own way and their own creative spin from their own prior work to make something new and fresh. And of course, you know, they being in an official position, they probably had access to the archives, but it just shows that a creative visionary who has a passion for the project will find a way to make it work. Well, and I just don't think that Lucasfilm has that philosophy where I feel like they're chasing more excuses than answers. Let's
put it this way. If you are a creative person, or consider yourself to be one, and you think you could come up with the, you know, what is now the equivalent of the great American novel, right? The great movie character franchise story. And you think so because you were inspired by Star Wars and Indy and James Bond and all of these great things. Do you think, well, I can imitate that? Or do you think I can put what was in that worked for me into something totally new? If you're smart, you do the latter. And if you're even tempted, look at all this terrible fanfic that gets out based on characters from TV shows and movies that's technically illegal, for God's sakes. You don't have the right to those characters. But come up with your own and the sky's the limit. So is there a character of a hero who has wit and has charm and has a dedication to science and even wears an interesting hat that's possible without Indiana Jones? Sure there is. Sure there is. All you got to do is do it. All you got to do is do it.
We have somebody who might actually have a lot to say about this in his own way, I'm sure. Oh, it is the one, the only, my very dear friend here, Jay, Drunk 3PO. Hello there, sir. How are you doing today?
Hey there, you drunken.
How's it going? How's it going?
Hey.
Doing very well, thank you. So what, Jay, your thoughts on all of this? The news came in late last night, apparently coming out of Matt Bellany's Puck. If I'm saying that correctly, you two, please.
Yes.
Don't.
Yes, you are.
Don't allege him saying something else. But came late last night. 3 sources have Kathleen Kennedy retiring later this year. What's your thoughts on all this, Jay? And I don't know. I mean, I did see Gina's take on it. It looks like it was very, very interesting. But I'm so curious to see what you're taking on.
I'm in the I'll believe it when I see it camp. Oh. We've heard these rumors circling before, but this one's pretty. I guess because the Hollywood Reporter and Variety and all them are reporting on it, so it could be time. Interesting timing though, with the Star Wars Celebration happening in April.
Yep.
You would think maybe they would have done it afterwards.
Or Or at.
Correct. Or and maybe they're going to turn it into a big thank you Kathleen Kennedy celebration over there in Japan. That's why they did it over there and not in America. Might have got a little different
interesting. I like that.
But it's kind of crazy that if this is true, the very last thing that she probably is going to do this year is be involved in a Gina Carano lawsuit in July. So what a way to go. Possibly
that's why I'm
losing.
saying at, because they want to get all of that celebratory stuff out of the way before it gets muddied or diminished by whatever comes out in the Gina trial discovery.
Why not have the celebration at the trial?
Oh, there you go.
I don't think she'll be celebrating.
They tried that with the OJ trial. It didn't work out too well. That's
what I think. I think we'll wait and see what happens, and I don't know, but it'd be kind of funny if the last thing that she did was have called up to testify about the mistreatment of another woman, and that's it. And then she walks out the door. So
but what is a woman? Maybe her definition is different.
Oh, that's a fair point.
Matt Walsh can school her.
I do find it curious the timing, because I mean the Star Wars movie, first one since 2019, with Mandalorian and Grogu, is coming out May 22nd of next year. You would have thought that she would have stuck around at least to see that through, and then
her name will be on it, So who cares?
I suppose so. I guess
I thought she would have stuck around at least for Rey. Yeah.
What Rey? Is there a script yet?
And you got it.
We keep getting told, oh, it's wonderful, it's marvelous, but I haven't read anything yet. And oh, it's wonderful, it's marvelous, but we have plans. And
you have
is
to
a good
think,
excuse
Lou,
to drop it too. Good excuse to drop it.
That's a good point right there. I was just about to say, you got to think that's going to be gone now. I mean, there's no way that's going forward. Especially if somebody comes in and replaces Kathleen Kennedy, the first thing they're going to want to do is clean the slate.
I know. They'll rewrite it where she's a solar observer, and the theme song will be Rey, a drop of golden sun. K, a name I call myself. A long way to run, I tell you. Anyway.
Well,
I love this though. I'm just sitting here watching.
I think they're going to give it to Leslie Headland. She's going to run Lucasfilm Star Wars.
Oh yeah, sure.
Great.
Right.
To be able to finish the Acolyte, what she always wanted, and greenlight other projects. So.
Yeah. And if you believe that, I have some swampland I'd like to sell you, and a bridge used only by a little old lady in Brooklyn.
They've done just as crazier things, so you never know.
I don't know if she spent enough time with studio heads to know how to run a company. Oh.
Obviously, according to what we've seen with Star Wars, nobody spent a lot of time understanding how to run this company. So
that's true. Maybe they spent the wrong time with the wrong people. But
and he's suing his brother now.
Are they?
Yeah, Harvey's suing his brother, saying he gypped him out of some of the money or something from jail. Because he had nothing else to do. And probably some jailhouse lawyer told him, hey, why don't you try this?
I guess so. Oh, my goodness gracious. Well, we'll have to keep ear to the grindstone.
Let's go to something more cheerful. What do you say, Vash?
Absolutely. New York Times, Universal's theme parks, long in Disney's shadow, expand at dizzying pace. Universal's going after Disney industry leader with new parks in Florida and Texas. We want people to think of us first. This is a huge article right here. I can't go over all of it, but I can place excerpts here and there. This is some huge stuff right here. So we learned quite a bit from this article. For one thing, I guess Mr. Woodbury, which is the head of Universal, I think it's Destinations and Experiences.
If you look at our thumbnail for today, you'll see him over there on the right with the beard and the smile.
Yes. And he has been leading the operation over there for a long time. But I guess he did ask the question, how do we become the destination of choice in each of the markets that we operate in? And in all of the markets that we choose to expand into, how do we come out of Disney's shadow was definitely the topic of discussion right there. We did learn that Epic Universe as impressive and as amazing as it is costing $7 billion. Now, I have heard that that's about right. Some people saying that's a little bit too little. Some people saying that that's a lot more than they had originally anticipated.
Well, I always quote the late, great senator from Illinois, Everett Dirksen, who, when talking about the federal budget, said, quote, $1 billion here and $1 billion there. And before you know it, you're talking about real money. So
that is my favorite quote from your long treasure trove of quotes there, Lou, I must say. But I kind of want to ask that, Nolan, I know you've got opening date tickets for this, and I'm so jealous that you
All
do.
right.
Do you think $7 billion is appropriate for this park right here? And maybe was there a number that you had in mind?
That sounds about right, because this is going to be an investment for, if they want to be the thing that audiences think about first when they think about theme park attractions, then you're going to have some commitment. You're not just playing for the next 10 years. You're going to drive a brand to the ground. You're thinking that generations here, 50 plus years. If you want to be making an impact here, you need to become a part of the lifestyle. When you were bringing up earlier about where they want to be the first thing that park goers think of, I just couldn't help but think of, those Super Bowl ads that come around every year where they ask the player, what are you going to do? I'm going to Disney World. What if that zeitgeist just changes to where now all the shows are going to be like, hey, I want to go to Epic Universe. I want to go to Universal. I want to live like Harry Potter. It takes a commitment to build a brand like that. And we know from all the documentaries, historical facts of Disney, it took some imaginative people and a big fat checkbook. So personally, until I see leaks happening all over the place or rides breaking down, I think the budget is justified. But you know what? I don't balance the check. So
there's one other thing too. It's one thing to say we hope people think of us that way. It's another thing to say we're going to make sure they do. And that, to me, is what Frisco is all about. And I think they'll do 3 or 4 more of those in suburbs in Chicago or suburbs in Seattle or wherever, because it's growing the future audience by getting kids hooked on the brands to the point where they say, can we go to the big one now, Daddy, Mommy? About to die, Grandpa?
He does say that, Lou. Here's the thing. Mr. Woodbury, in this specific article, says, we're going to roll these out across the country and the world. Speaking about Universal Horror Unleashed, which is the Vegas project, and also to the Frisco Park in Texas with Universal Kids. We also did learn as well what themes we were going to get with Universal Kids. You can see Puss in Boots, Shrek, Gabby's Dollhouse. Okay. Minions, SpongeBob, Jurassic World, Trolls. So that's quite a bit to see right there. And Lou, you sent these in right before this show started.
Yes, I happen to have a relative who lives in the neighborhood. And you know what these next door websites are about, which is like local communities having their... This was from the next door in his neighborhood, from somebody who got some aerial shots of it under construction very recently. And it's moving. And the guy who sent these pictures to this next door said he saw people working on Sunday every day of the week, and he even saw lots of mobile homes where the workers are actually living on site to be close to the job.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
They're very aggressive with this. Folks, I mean, they're saying this is going to be opening in 2026. And we know for a fact right here, this is 2023 when the project was actually approved for $550 million, that they were going to break ground at the earliest I thought was 2024. So in 2 years, they're going to have this up and ready. I mean,
we should mention, for those who are not aware, that Frisco is a suburb of Dallas-Fort Worth on the northwest side of town. And, because some of you who are fellow former Californians, that's a different word for us, because everybody from San Francisco got very offended if LA people said, I'm going up to Frisco. Oh, no, you're not. It's San Francisco, darn it. But Frisco, Texas is another story. They have a very fine farmer's market, by the way.
The fact that it is $550 million to make compared to, I don't know, $1 billion to make Galaxy's Edge, just a little part next to the theme park.
And this has a 300-room hotel besides.
Is quite telling because, they can pop these things out all over the place if they have the land, if that's the cost. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah,
I thought this thing was at least
price
around,
as they roll them out is going to be the cost of the real estate.
I think
know that somewhere behind the scenes, they got their dibs on some 3 or 4 other places, I'll bet you, in the USA and Canada.
Yeah, and it's they I don't know if you guys have talked much about Beijing Universal. So like that part is picking up a lot of traffic. I actually got an email asking if I would want to be a guest out there. So to go all the way back out to China and hang out in Beijing and do Beijing Universal. What's interesting about Beijing Universal is that here in Orlando we have the Marvel's Land, and when they thought that was going to go, when Disney bought all that years ago, they had a backup plan, and it was Transformers. That's why the Transformers ride is identical to the Spider-Man ride. It just has Transformers. Well, they actually did that in Beijing. So the Hulk ride in Orlando is actually called like Return to Cybertron in Beijing. It's the exact same ride, but it's just purple.
And side note, the guy at Universal Hollywood who plays Megatron or whatever it is and interacts with the guests in a meet and greet is the funniest human being on the planet right now.
Yeah, we have one very similar here in Orlando.
If you see those clips that are on the internet of him razzing people, God, he's funny. It's really, really good stuff.
Yeah,
we haven't mentioned UK.
Yes.
UK is going to come out with their government approvals here any day now. So.
Yep. And I think I have the article up for that. Oop, I actually don't. Let me
Ken in the chat says, don't go to China. I've been there 7 times already.
Oh.
So,
well.
already been there multiple times. Been to Shanghai Disney before and all that. So, yeah.
Lou, you were talking about, like the difference between wanting to be the first and actually, if you're all bark and no bite and, backing up the words you're saying. All this stuff we were just going over here over the past few minutes, we were talking about how they're doing kind of like Disney did in the past. They got to, the hearts of kids while they were young, and they grew up just loving Disney. Their films were, still family to where, adults wouldn't cringe watching them the whole time.
I once heard Michael Eisner say he felt like somehow babies came out of the womb with those 3 circles imprinted on their mind with the profile of Mickey Mouse. That's how it seems to him sometimes.
But it's accurate. And, we're talking about all these expansions, we're going to have stuff aimed at, a very young audience. We have the thing in Vegas, which is going to be huge with teenagers and young adults. And then what's the first thing going to be in everyone's mind is, hey, this is cool. Let's go to Epic Universe. Let's go see Mario. Let's go see Harry Potter. I feel like they really have the perfect formula to be the dominant, theme park driver or really even entertainment driver in the world. And as long as they can still carry the money of having, to pay for, say, the Nintendo IPs, eventually one day other IPs they pursue outside of just what's in-house, because that's one thing Disney has over them is they do own the rights to a lot of things. But as we've seen, when you own the rights to everything, if you have incompetence at the top, everything's going to implode. The structure is going to be gone beneath you. But Universal, whether they realize it's a positive or not, they can have Nintendo or someone come and slap them in the hand and be like, hey, don't do that. And it seems like it's paying off pretty well for them to expand around the globe from the UK.
Well, the obvious question is, will the Disney IPs that are being ruined someday be thought of by future generations as like the Beatles? Wasn't that Paul's other band?
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
That's Wings we know, but no, Beatles, I don't know. Anyway, and that's what they're insuring against with this. By the way, if you look at all the concept art for the Vegas haunting, it's all couples. You don't see families. You see boy, girls. And it's interesting that in
Vegas isn't really a place you take your children. So
but see, people have tried in the past and screwed up. Look at the MGM theme park that didn't make it.
Very true.
For that very reason.
Very good point.
And there are rumors, in Vegas right now that supposedly, Circus is coming to the ground, and there are rumors that Disney is buying the property and going to put up a hotel. So if that happens, then Disney becomes totally committed to gambling, and you can forget about not having gambling on all the cruise ships and all the rest of that. So I don't think it'll work for them, but that's just me.
And, you gotta give
and
some
also
credit.
the Portal videos that came out, about a week, 10 days ago on Epic, where suddenly people have the portal in their backyard or in their neighborhood or in their park, or in the case of Dark Universe, outside of a coffee shop called Lou's, spelled Lew. So I kind of found that funny. But God, those videos, the marketing is just brilliant. These people know what they're doing.
It is absolutely astounding what Universal is doing, and like you said, you brought up Universal UK. This is from That Park Place, published actually yesterday. Universal Studios Great Britain nears final approval could bring Wicked and Harry Potter attractions to the UK, while much of the theme park world has been focused on the highly anticipated opening of Universal Epic Universe in Orlando on May 22nd, 2025. Universal has been quietly working on another massive project across the pond. Universal Studios Great Britain is now on the brink of receiving its final go-ahead, bringing an exciting new destination to the UK. Go ahead, Luke.
In my opinion, final decisions on a Wicked Land or whatever will have to do with how the second movie does. I think it's going to fall off enormously from the first one, but that's just me. And so,
that is a good point, and I think we did have a couple of answers to this on the New York Times article. So let me see here. I believe at the very end, he says, Mr. Woodbury has still secret plans for significant attractions themed to Wicked, another Universal movie. Quote, when I saw it, my first reaction was, this is a theme park waiting to happen, he said. Now, what's interesting about that specific quote right there is that if you go over to, let's see, Scott Goostin today, actually, was breaking the news, as he does. Elphaba and Glinda from Wicked will meet guests during Universal Fan Fest nights, the new after-hours event held at Universal Studios Hollywood on select nights, starting April 25th through May 18th. So they're already starting with the kind of Wicked incorporation, at least with Fan Fest nights, which
they did not announce the meet and greets here in Orlando for Wicked because the lines would get so long.
Really?
And they were kind of like they just were kind of spur of the moment, and the lines would wrap around the building twice for people to meet them. And the museum that is what the Wicked building. Has anybody here been in that before?
I've seen the pictures of the outside of it.
Yeah, so
it's basically a merch location, right? Or
no, it's bigger than that. It's like a big museum. So they have like the costumes, they have behind the scenes video playing there. They have and then at the very end, it's a merch store. So it's very popular. So whatever you think of the movie, the actresses or whatever, it is very, very popular.
It is massive.
You could sing that, Jay. Very, very popular.
There are people that come to the Orlando park dressed as them just to go into that experience and get photos because they've got some of the set where you can walk in and take photos and stuff like that. So it's very, very popular. And they got rid of the Hello Kitty store for it. Come on now.
One of the other nice things about the Universal parks, you can actually dress up like your favorite characters and have some fun.
That's a good point. Can't really do that with Disney parks.
Oh yeah, they encourage the crazy thing is to see people wearing the Harry Potter robes in August, and I'm like dying a sweat. I'm like, I know those people are hot, but man, they are true to course, man.
I'll tell you a story about that. Do you remember the movie Rent, based on the Broadway musical?
Yes.
We went to see that. At a first screening, midnight deal at a multiplex in Valencia, California, many, many years ago. And across the aisle, people were lining up for the opening night preview, whatever the latest Harry Potter movie was. And standing there, no, we didn't go to see Rent, but there was one of those standees, they call them, the big cardboard cutout things in the theater. Mm-hmm. And one of the characters in Rent is a girl who's some kind of S&M hooker dressed in kind of a Catwoman skin-tight black latex suit. And they had her life-size in this standee. And I looked across at the people in the tweeds for Harry Potter in Valencia in the summertime, and I looked at that, and I said, if if people dress up for this movie the way they did for that one, I'll come back to watch The Line. But for that, no, thank you.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah, well, but and people are talking about, well, what IP will they have in England? And everybody said, oh, well, what about James Bond now? And I don't think so. I think that's kind of, you want something different. Remember, Universal, I think one of the more brilliant things that they did with Epic was they wanted to do Fantastic Beasts, figuring it was an expansion of the brand. But when the movies didn't do as well as they hoped, they kept Paris and just had you go through the flu to go back to England. Well, what'll they do for that in England? Maybe the New York ministry, which was in those movies. I don't know. But it gave you variety and still familiarity at the same time. Right. So
it shows why Universal is smart, because if this was Disney, I mean, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but they would have doubled down on Fantastic Beasts and probably plan out the next 5 years of theme parks just themed to that. They keep telling people what they think they want as opposed to letting it happen naturally. It's pathetic.
Which the movies were not terrible failures. They just didn't have the same kind of Harry Potter wow factor, I guess you'd call it, at the box office. Anyway.
And oh man, it's so incredible to see the amazing, just I don't know, the money fire hose has been turned on by Comcast to really, generate these amazing themed experiences in the theme park space for Universal. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And part of that money, at least for their initial investments in Universal Horror Unleashed, Universal Kids Resort, and Epic Universe, well, we know where that's coming from. Yeah. If you've been keeping track of the news right here, Disney to buy out Comcast's Hulu stake for at least $8.6 billion. So it's $7 billion for Epic Universe. It's $550 million for Universal Kids. It is, Woodbury, when talking about this, he said they were $700 million, but I'm guessing $150 to $200 million for Vegas, Universal Horror Unleashed, that is. It's basically being paid completely by this purchase. And again, this is just the initial payment. Remember, Disney has reserved about $5 billion extra in order to make up the difference, pending, I believe, arbitration right now between.
Did anybody think it would take this long to come up with that number? I sure didn't. I figured they'd make a deal and put it behind them and move on from there. It makes you kind of wonder,
it's a lot of money.
And by the way, the fact that the Vegas one costs the least, it has potentially a much bigger revenue potential because of alcohol.
Yep.
The kids park won't.
Yep.
I'm curious to see if people will pay that kind of money, $80 to get in there, then spend more money on alcohol in Vegas. But
what does it cost to go to a Cirque du Soleil show now? 100, 150, 200? It's pretty high.
Not that much.
In Vegas, I think so.
In Vegas, maybe. Okay. Orlando, not so much.
No, but in Vegas, everything is crazy expensive, and so
that is
I'm
true.
I'm not saying it's a deal. I'm just saying it's not that out of the ordinary.
But that's the thing is, like, are people willing to pay that? I guess we'll find out. I can't wait to go.
The other thing is this about Vegas. When the MGM, the newer one, opened with the theme park, I was part of the press corps for that way back when. And somebody asked him, oh, come on, are you really selling Vegas to families and kids? And here is what the guy from MGM said, right or wrong. He said, look, everything is about getting people to walk by the slot machines, whether it's the headliner room or the production show room or the restaurants with the famous chefs or the theme park. Each one of those has an audience and a constituency. And if they come to ours, they don't go to the other guys. So remember that the night you're spending at Halloween Horror or whatever for Universal is a night you're not spending seeing, Smokey Robinson or whoever is playing at the MGM. So it's how many ways can we divide the pie in our favor? And they don't need a lot of people to make that work. So we'll see. And of course, again, that builds audiences for the horror nights at Hollywood and Orlando down the road.
Which we just actually got some news that Universal Halloween Horror Nights at at least Universal Studios Hollywood, I believe, will be starting up sooner than it ever has, which is very interesting. I thought I had that tweet up, but I might not. I'll go ahead and get it for you backstage. But also, too, we heard from Eric Marshall, which is one of the senior executives at Universal Destinations and Experiences, in this Blue Loop article that was released a little while ago, talking about the strategy for Universal going forward, parks growth strategy, that is. If we scroll down, all the way down to just about, let me see here, right about here. These new projects complement what we're doing in Orlando, says Marshall. It's about enticing people to try these experiences, that being Universal Horror Unleashed and the Universal Kids Park in Frisco, Texas. It's all about getting them to fall in love with Universal and then graduate to our larger destinations. So that's really, really, I mean,
you got to know that as you're walking out of this Vegas thing, there's going to be a big TV screen saying, when in Orlando, see the real monsters, Frankenstein, Dracula, and showing pictures of Dark Universe. It's all going to be connected so well. And by the way, we already pretty much kind of for sure know that the first expansion at Epic is going to be in the Harry Potter thing, and it's going to be a Hogwarts dining hall experience. Right. So that'll be something.
It is absolutely incredible, and I am unbelievably excited for the future of Universal. I mean, and it's super bright. Here's the thing: they're making good moves all across the nation. We haven't even talked about Universal Studios Hollywood yet, but go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt. It is pretty awesome to see them taking these small steps instead of just diving in and building another Universal Studios. I think Lou is correct. Yeah. Just like these little chips here and there. It's like, okay, now we visited the small park. Let's go to the mothership. I think that is an excellent point that I didn't even think about until just now. So I think they are very smart in doing that. So look to a Universal coming to a place near you.
That's the thing.
That way.
And to dot these all around, and also you can test these markets too. I mean, if you get something really successful, let's say in the upper Northwest or something, it's like, oh, we never really thought about setting up a theme park here, but we see the demand, and maybe we set up something here that's a little bit more elaborate than just these.
And the demand is proven by places like Dollywood and places like the good Six Flags parks, all 2 or 3 of them. And well, I mean,
ouch! Dang, Lou!
Well, shots fired. Shots fired.
I'm just not a coaster person, so after a certain point. By the way, did you see they had to put some special little brakes on the big coaster at?
They did. Yes.
Epic because it was going a little too fast.
Yeah.
Aren't
so
they building a USA style theme park in the Midwest?
Supposedly someday, maybe, but the financing is still in doubt.
Is it really?
But if they do, that will be quite an attraction, mainly because it's right on Route 66, and they're starting with a big RV park, and then they will add the theme park, and zillions of people go through there in their RVs cross country, and it'll be the next one west of all the stuff that's at Branson.
It's
that'd be interesting. If they were to open that, when were they planning on opening that? In 2026?
Another 3 or 4 years at least, I think.
Okay, down the road a little bit.
Yeah.
I know it's stalled a little bit. We're hoping that it eventually does open, but I think Lou's right. There's some proof that these theme park concepts do win out. Of course, the Universal brand has changed so significantly, and I think it really has risen up to the point where it's like, okay, well, let's try out these things in these various markets, kind of see what happens. I think
what I like about Universal most of all. Granted, they've got all these great creative people and this wonderful stuff coming. They listen to the audience.
They do.
Did you notice how when they announced these rides and things at Epic and said, no screens, honest, it's all real, no screens? That's because people kept watching them do screen ride after screen ride after screen ride and saying, we're tired of that. Disney would have said, yeah, but you should go to it anyway because it's Disney.
And when was the last time you ever heard Disney admit that they were wrong on something outside of putting Bob Chapek as the CEO?
Yeah, there you go. Firing Chapek was the last time, right?
And speaking of listening to the audience, they listen to the audience big time here, or at least maybe that's what it seems like.
Yep.
Scott Gooston reporting yesterday. The last day to experience Fast and Furious Supercharged at Universal Studios Hollywood is March 10th. The experience is closing to make way for Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift coaster opening in 2026. An all-new studio tour attraction will be announced soon.
Isn't exactly accurate, though.
I
It's
would
not
agree with you.
closing to make way for that roller coaster.
Right.
It's moving that IP to that roller coaster, but they say they're going to build. Remember, this Fast and Furious thing is on the tour tram route. It's not a standalone attraction.
Yes.
So they're going to do something else with that building as a tour thing, and who knows? Who knows? They know.
Oh, you can still
They
come to
know.
Orlando and ride that piece of garbage ride that nobody rides. It could be the busiest day of the year with every other ride with 3-hour waits, but it's a walk-on for that terrible ride here at Universal Orlando.
Yes.
It's awful.
Well,
I liked it. I thought it was okay. What was so bad about it?
All right, Nolan likes it. That's okay with me, but I can't. I don't like that ride.
Jay, what did it do? What did it do, Jay?
I'm sorry.
No,
They got rid of
this is a
Earthquake,
terrible
man.
attraction.
They got rid of Earthquake, one of the greatest rides
Right?
ever. They got rid of, whatever.
They
I'll tell you what they got rid of from the original Universal Studios that was great was the Hitchcock thing.
oh yes,
That was a
Well,
fantastic show.
You're going way back now.
Yeah, I
that was a
am.
great
I'm
show.
old. That's my curse.
It's a
I'm
great-
old and I can
you're
still. My
absolutely-
memory still works.
You're absolutely correct. That was a great show.
Now, this is interesting. I think Scott may not realize this is not the Hollywood version that you see in this specific photo. This is actually the Florida version. So I don't know, maybe a harbinger of things to come, perhaps. Now, what's interesting about this, and we'll read the official press release, and then I'll come in with the rumor and speculation that I'm hearing on myself here. But Universal Hollywood says, the Fast and Furious Supercharged attraction on the Universal Studios Hollywood world-famous studio tour prepares for its last run on March 10th, as the theme park readies for an all-new high-speed outdoor roller coaster, Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift. Guests and fans invited to experience the adrenaline-infused studio tour right before it closes. An exciting all-new studio tour attraction is soon to be announced. That's not quite what I'm hearing, although I could be wrong, of course.
Oh, I can tell you stories about Falls Lake. I tell you. I think
yes.
I have. But anyway, we had some interesting times there way back when. But anyway.
I have heard that Falls Lake might be the place for the next big Universal expansion over there at Universal Studios Hollywood.
Well, that would leave only the Paramount tank, the one with the whales, as the last one of those. There used to be. I was watching. We of the Genre Guys this coming week are going to record a double feature for the first time. Nolan is going to be involved, and it's going to be the Our Man Flint movies. And there's a scene with a submarine docking, and that was the Seaview dock way back when on the Fox backlot. So I had a lot of memories of that, and that had a tank. And there was also just a big round go in there with divers and models tank on that lot too. But yeah, this is an interesting place. God, well, I will, without naming names, I was involved in a production that used this, and our producer was such a big shot that he didn't have to get on the schedule. He just said, is anybody using it Tuesday? No? Okay, we will. And we did a thing it was Major Dad, and the Marines gave us anything we wanted. And they brought in a big twin rotor Chinook or whatever, a helicopter. And what the scene was, the show was about a flood at the base, and they had Mackie in a harness and a stunt woman and a car at an angle in the lake there, which not out here, but right up to the sky cyc. And the Marines came in and yanked them out of there. The only thing was, the next thing on the schedule for Falls Lake was Lassie. And they were going to use it as a beach. And they said, well, there's nothing on the schedule. We can have our trucks dump the 4 truckloads of sand to make the beach, and it won't interfere with anybody, except, of course, our helicopter blew it all away. They were not pleased.
No, that's no good right there.
Yeah.
Falls Lake is a very famous shooting location, as Lou has brilliantly pointed out here. And
Backlot Universal. We should make that clear that we're talking about.
Yes. backlot Universal. It's actually adjacent to where Fast and Furious Supercharged is, roughly along the studio tour, and it's connection to the backlot there.
May I ask Lou a question? Did you enjoy
Please.
the backlot tour at NGM Disney when they had that?
Yeah, it was okay, but
It was okay.
It was so obviously manufactured for. I found the stuff where they took you in the stages pretty good, and the animation stuff. But it was, that studio was never really built to be a studio. Although, in Universal's case, it was a lucky thing that they built these city streets for New York, in Florida, as exact copies of the streets in Hollywood. Because when this massive fire happened that wiped out a lot of the backlot in Hollywood, and they were making this Sylvester Stallone comedy gangster movie. I had a man's name as the name, and I don't remember what it was called. But they were able to go right to Orlando and finish the movie because the backlots were out. The only thing they lost were about 15 really gorgeous antique cars.
The last thing that I remember them filming inside of Universal, because they used to film an old show called Superboy, I think it was, way back when, inside the theme park. They did film some of the Final Destination movies. And I remember being in the park, and they were even asking people if they wanted to be an extra. Huh. It's pretty neat to buy a ticket to go into a theme park, and they're just like, hey, would you like to be an extra? And if you had to sign all this stuff out, and you just kind of stood there looking around.
Assuming that you wanted to pay the admission price to spend all day being an extra.
Yeah, just standing there, and they're like, all right, everybody look to the left. Everybody look to the right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd want to be an extra in a Final Destination movie. I feel like that's some bad juju waiting to happen.
It's like being a red shirt on a Star Trek movie.
Some people love it, man. They also they used to do wrestling in there as well. So if you bought a ticket to get in, you could go to some of them filming the wrestling in the back. So
that was the two big stages at Universal Hollywood, 17 and 24, I think it was. One of them, I actually watched them shoot the Hindenburg models. The model of the Hindenburg was like 25 feet long and everything animated, and the lights were great. And they had a gray sky cyc in that stage and filled it up with fog, and then had all these shots of it coming up out of the fog and going down into the fog and all that kind of stuff. That was the stage where they did American Gladiators.
Yes.
To give you an idea of how big it was. Yeah. In fact, let's see if we can see.
And Leon, you are correct. They did film a lot of the Sharknado movies there inside the theme park. So
yes,
you are correct, Leon. You are correct. I didn't see that personally, but you are correct.
So much of this has been changed, of course, because
and more of it is on the way. A lot of the sound stages near the theme park sector, the lower lot, and there's a lot of changes there, folks. Believe me. But going over here to Falls Lake,
only been there one time.
You can, Jay. Gotta get
I know, man. Terrible.
Get over here. You can see Supercharged right there, though. The kind of series of long buildings right there in between this parking structure and Falls Lake. By the way, that parking structure where they filmed the Lost World scene with the truck over the cliff's edge, right there. But you can see the vast expanse that this would allow for a theme park operation, but you can see that Supercharge's connection to it, and this is kind of why, at least what I'm hearing right now, and Universal Apex is like very like, he's telling me over and over again, this is the place. But okay, all right, Universal, all right. But the other thing though is that I am hearing, and I think I can go with this, that this show building that houses Supercharged might be a train station, a la Diagon Alley and its connection to the Wizarding World over there at Florida, and that might provide you the means of transportation over to this section that might become a Diagon Alley or Wizarding World of some kind. So that's what I'm hearing, at least initially right now. I still have to. I mean, things are changing constantly. So right now, it's a lot of things are floating out there. But speaking of floating out there, they also provided with this an update to the Fast and the Furious project right here. That being the coaster.
I thought the track was more or less finished, wrapping around the escalator.
This is the last piece of track. to wrap over the Starway. Right
the
there.
Starway, that's what they call it. That's right.
Yeah.
And for those who don't, shame on you, don't follow Vash and I on our Backlot with Lou show. I've told the story about one time being on the Starway there and talking to this couple. They came to ride the escalator. Why? They work for Otis Elevator. And it was like there was an elevator technicians convention going on in Hollywood, and they went there not for the rides, but to ride the big escalator because that was their business. So
that was the business they
supposed
were
to
in.
show you. The person
When did
next
we
to
get
you's
to the
reason
ride?
for visiting a park may not be yours, you know?
No, I love the escalator. I thought that was like part of the experience. I was like,
I love it.
these are the biggest escalators I've ever been on in my life.
Well, see, when you were working down below on a show and it was like a long lunch or dinner break, you'd take it up there and go play in the park and come back down. So those were the days.
I love it.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I like the escalators myself personally. It's a little inconvenient, especially when you're trying to maximize your day at Universal because you have to go up and down them. But I do actually like the experience, and it's a very unique park. It's a 2-story kind of thing, and it is pretty cool right here.
Well,
so,
and back into the hills the other way, as I've also mentioned on the other show, there was a time when the people up on the hill were really PO'd because there were so many radio frequencies being used between the tour and the attractions and actual production that people up on the hill above Universal, their garage doors started opening and closing with a mind of their own because the radio frequencies would trigger them. And
oh man,
oh yeah, so there, and then of course they always complained about the noise, which was silly because originally the Universal Amphitheater was an open stage with just the lights of the valley behind it. And it opened with Jesus. It's where Hogwarts is now, but it opened with Jesus Christ Superstar, and there was this the set was this profile of Jesus and his hands, and then it was on a railroad track. And in the daytime, they'd roll that out and roll in a Western Street and do the stunt show there. And then the people complained about the noise, and so they built walls around it, but not a roof. And I'll never forget going to a concert, one of the best concerts I ever went to in my life, of Electric Light Orchestra. And you might remember they had a guy playing cello, and his cello was mirrored. And they had lasers going to his cello, vibrating with the vibration of the strings and fanning out over your head across the audience to mirrors on that back wall that then sort of created a light dome over the entire thing. And then they closed it in, and it was very successful as a concert venue. But it amazed me how concert venues must have gone out of style because it was worth more to them as Harry Potter than it was as a venue for concerts. So
gotta sell that butterbeer, Lou. That's the thing. Gotta sell that butterbeer.
Did you see where Goldfish is putting out a butterbeer flavor cracker?
Whoa!
What?
No, I did not see.
Yeah. I saw a story. They said you can advance order them from Amazon now, but they're going to be out all over
all those articles on there. Get a story about the fish crackers right now. This is top line news.
Yep.
Rename the stream.
Breaking. New thumbnail coming.
You heard it here first.
The other thing that is happening around here that has everybody kind of scratching their heads as to what exactly is going on is the area adjacent to Fast and Furious Supercharge and next to Mummy, which, by the way, Nolan, if you haven't ridden Mummy at Universal Studios Hollywood, you better get on that quick. I'm just saying.
The biggest monstrosity since removing Muppet Vision is what you're referring to, right?
No. The biggest atrocity on that lot was taking out the Phantom stage.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
That was an amazing place. It was built not for the original Phantom with Lon Chaney, but for the remake in the 50s with Claude Rains as the Phantom. And it was a perfect opera house stage with the flies in the back. And it was used on a lot of concert shows. I think Midnight Special used to use it a lot. But boy, was that an amazing place.
It was an amazing venue.
It's gone.
We covered that.
Anyway.
You covered that on Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you as well. Definitely gotta check that out for sure.
I knew I heard it somewhere.
Now
anyway.
I have heard that Mummy will be taken out shortly in order to open up more theme park space, at least to the north.
And everybody should take their Mummy out if you haven't lately.
Yeah, they gotta air out that Mummy. You see. But right now the issue is that you see this Kirk Douglas Drive right here. That's the current route for the Universal Tram Tour.
Right.
And I've heard that it's within a little bit closer proximity than Universal lawyers might want for the Fast and the Furious Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift Coaster that's up the hill there. And so I think they want to relocate the tram stop and load and unload on the lower lot. And of course, that would precipitate that Mummy has to go away.
Do they still do Prop Plaza, Vash? Do they still do Prop Plaza? Because back when the tour was the main thing, they said, we got to make more money out of this. So they put in this thing called Prop Plaza about halfway up the hill, and every tram started at the top of it, and you walked down through some big props, but also past a gift shop and a refreshment stand, and got on another tram at the bottom just to give you a break in the tram tour. But those were the days.
I don't think they do that. Oh, go ahead.
I think this might be the single worst idea a human has ever thought of. I don't like this at all. Tell them to stop it.
Go ahead, Dylan, please.
No, I mean, that is a beloved attraction, and coaster enthusiasts love it. It's intense. There's fire everywhere, and it might low-key be my favorite ride, period, at Universal Studios, and I am a bit sad that people aren't freaking out about it the same way they have Tom Sawyer Island or Muppet Vision. And I don't know, maybe it's going out with a shriek or a whimper instead of a shriek, and maybe I'm a one-man army on this. But I want to go cry to my mummy right now, and that joke was bad, but I'm very distraught. Very distraught.
Well, I think Dylan, I think the love for Universal Studios Mummy attraction comes from the Florida version, not
I would say they would riot here in Orlando if they got rid of the Mummy here. It is such a major.
It's a huge ride. It has like, the fire.
They're even selling. Are they selling the lounge fly bags over there at Hollywood? Because they introduced the Mummy lounge fly bags and they sold out within like 5 minutes. And like people, it was hard for people to get them. So I didn't know if and it was an in-park exclusive kind of thing. So yeah, people lined up for hours waiting like early to get for that rope drop to get that, to get
I don't actually know
bag from the Mummy ride.
I don't actually know if the if we got the lounge fly and Mummy backpacks. I'll say this took over not Confrontation like it did in Florida. This took over the E.T. attraction back in the day, the original E.T. attraction. And Steven Spielberg, by the way, not happy about that at all. But more importantly, though, the show building was it was large, but it wasn't like roller coaster large. And again, when you have more speed, you need more track, or else you're going to have a short ride, which is kind of what happened here. The Mummy attraction at Universal Studios Hollywood is very short, and we don't get the fire effects that you guys do over there in Florida and so forth. Really? So it's really never been super beloved here.
I haven't been back since all of this changed. That Transformers ride building was originally Backdraft.
Yes.
And that was a great show. That was a wonderful show.
Love Backdraft so much. So good. But they removed that as well. So, yes, I understand, Nolan, that, a good coaster, let not that go to waste. But it just has never had the same success that it experienced out in Florida. It's just the right ride, wrong show bullet. But go ahead.
Well, and for a thrill ride to be right across from Jurassic is like competition that doesn't happen. So, anyway.
If your legacy is... Go ahead.
Oh, please.
I'm sorry. I know it's like we're a bunch of guys talking about a purse, but I mean, it's like... apparently this is only offered at Orlando, unless someone corrects me in the chat. I looked and even Universal Orlando was answering questions about how they can acquire this type of backpack. So it's a very unique design, but yeah, that's how much people really love the Mummy over here. It's like they're willing to wait. So
is my masculinity questioned if I want to buy that? Because that thing looks banger. That thing looks amazing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that people woke up early when they knew it was coming, and it was just they just waited because they knew it would sell out in like no time. So
It's
I don't know if
called
they're
a
gonna get any
merce.
more
It's a
in or not.
satchel.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
But Nolan, you were just about to say something.
Oh yes, no. What I was just gonna say is, if your legacy is just that of being an inferior product to a much more awesome variant, on the other end of the country, I can understand if you're so landlocked to move on from this. My main concern would be because we've seen this with, I know a different company here, but we've seen this with Muppet Vision over at Disney. They closed the California one, and sometime later they closed the Florida one. I would feel a lot more comfortable if not for industry trends of the past, where usually it's a writing on the wall for an attraction going bye-bye, as opposed to, hey, let's do something better and your ride is safe. Because let's be real here, Universal is one of the most, I say this with love, but they are one of the most cruel when it comes to past attractions being past their expiration date.
I still have... I'm still angry over Back to the Future, I must say.
Just remember that as big as it is in ground area, that's some of the most expensive real estate in the history of LA. And they don't have that much of it left anymore. I mean, they took advantage of it making movies. If you go up to the upper European street, the one that has some of the Roman-looking buildings and embassies, let's see. Go right. Yeah, go. Okay, right around there. And until they added those 4 stages on the left at Courthouse Square, those streets, those Universal streets that say Universal Transport something, looked out across the golf course. Never saw the LA River running by. And you could have a park that looked like it was, Central Park, but no, it wasn't. Golly, so many memories.
Before anybody asks, because everybody always asks this, hey, why don't they just buy that big golf course over there? Never, ever, ever going to happen. Universal has tried multiple times. That is an exclusive golf club for the very elite in Southern California. They're not giving that up. So,
if there's one thing we know about rich people is they love golf. Never happening. That thing goes away when the earth blows up. Like, it ain't happening.
Right, right.
Unless they leave LA, which would make a lot of sense if they had sense. But that's just another tale for another day.
Another tale for another day, indeed. But there's a lot of stuff going on. And here's the thing: we only talked about the back half of Universal Hollywood. We didn't even talk about the front half, which they're getting a new 500 room hotel as their entrance portal. The whole security gate stuff that's happening there, where City Walk will be incorporated within the security apparatus. There's a lot going on over there.
I spent about the best 8, 9, 10 years of my life there once upon a time. Those were the days. And some of the things you saw. Can I tell you what the best set I ever saw in my life? And I've seen a lot. Kolchak, The Night Stalker, the original show.
Ooh,
that Chicago newspaper room that he based in with the L outside. That was the most unbelievably, wonderfully detailed set. Just amazing that they put that much into it for a TV show that, had basically a season's run. But wow, was that amazing.
Exquisite. It's amazing stuff. Cannot wait to see what the future holds for Universal Studios Hollywood. I think it's going to be really, really cool.
I can't wait to get back.
Oh,
I can't wait to get
Jay.
back. Wait, do they
get over here?
Can you guys do they have a dedicated resort for that theme park?
Well, there's 2 hotels now and more.
Right, they have hotels, but they don't have a Universal resort.
No,
they do not.
Oh,
they do not. So that's why it's always been Universal Studios Hollywood, just like the park, right? It's never had the resort distinction up until when this resort is officially added. Then we are all thinking it will earn that resort moniker for the first time, which is really, really cool. I can't tell you how excited I am.
But they did a lot of the resort stuff that Disney did before Disney did. For example, the bridge over the freeway.
Yeah.
They wanted a different way to get in other than off of Lancashire because it was causing traffic, and Caltrans was very happy with that as long as they paid for it, and they did. Can you show that on your magic visit? I don't know.
Yeah, so the
but it pissed a lot of locals off because it closed a little off ramp that everybody used to use to get to those local businesses.
Yeah, forgive me, Chad. I live 5 minutes from Universal Orlando, so the Hollywood Universe I'm a little iffy on, so that's why I ask these questions. Learning though.
So where do you go on vacation if you live in Vacation Central?
It's quite strange, isn't it? It's like
it's this one, right, Lou? This bridge right here.
I go to the beach.
Good answer.
Which is about an hour away.
Well, that's a walking one, but there's a drive over the whole freeway. Yeah, if you just go back to your map and go over there across the freeway from the studio, you'll see it. But anyway,
they added that bridge, by the way, for the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which was a pretty crazy construction project there. But let me see if I can find what you are referring to. There you go.
Go to the right. That bridge over the freeway.
One right here?
That entire complex, yeah. See, they had people get off above and below it and then cross over if they were on this side of the freeway.
Right.
And then that leads into the parking lots and the movie theater and City Walk.
Very ambitious.
Y'all City Walk is massive compared to ours here in Orlando. Ours is pretty small.
Huge complex, and that was a banger of a place back in the 1990s.
Well, and the upstairs of all those buildings with the stores and the restaurants is, I think it's UCLA Extension. There's a whole adult college up there.
2 stories
uses that space. I think
very big, but Twosome not doing very well. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Whoa! Now, what's wrong with Twosome? Don't break my heart twice today.
No. I here's the thing, Nolan. I'm not sure. It's always empty for some reason. Yeah.
Well, Buca de Beppo went bankrupt as a company, so I don't know whether that's still there either. But
I don't know.
You know what's crazy? Twosome in Orlando, you gotta it's packed.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to wait like a week to even get a reservation unless you're very, very lucky. And the line, for the non-reservation, it just wraps around. It's crazy packed. And then you hear about the one here in Hollywood where it's like not a soul enters that place. Nobody likes it. They don't want nothing to do with it. And I'm like, man, that's crazy to think that way. That's happening over there. And what's going on, California? What's happening?
More competition.
Is it something with the theming? Do they not have the cyberpunk robot or something? Do they cheap out?
No, they're going to take them out, actually. No, that's the interesting thing. They've had them all this time. Now they're going to actually remove them from Twosome. So I have no idea what's happening to the west location, but it's not nearly as popular as the east Twosome. So I'm not quite sure what is going on there. I do know, though, at the mom gifting for $99. Thank you so much for that. Is Cynthia going to have time to reprise her role for the UK Universal? I mean, she's got Storm. Jesus. Hi, panel. Liking new time. Long live KK. Thank you, Mom. That's a lot there. Thank you so much for that. And Eric Stratton with the 777.
What's up,
I like
Eric?
that, by the way. Oh, sorry.
I know Eric is a good guy. Just saying, hey.
Eric Stratton is absolutely fantastic.
Eric, everybody says Lost Continent's going to be Zelda, but there's some differing opinions on that. We shall see.
So, I think I can reveal this part of it. Nintendo and Universal have been at odds when it comes to Zelda. Let me go ahead and get Barry place 28 in here. Barry, what is going on, good sir?
We mentioned people being at odds, and there you are.
Yes.
Welcome.
But you're not that odd. You're just at.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Bob, you are fantastic. You are not odd in the slightest. But what is at odds is between Universal and Nintendo. From what I understand, Universal keeps submitting their plans or their developments for Zelda and what they would want for that Lost Continent area. Nintendo keeps rejecting them. So there is another Land and Islands of Adventure, though, that has taken up the top spot in terms of development. I can't tell you what that is or what they will have in it. I am so sorry. I wish I could. Honestly, guys. I when I heard the concept, I was like, "Ooh, that's a game changer," but I can't go live with it because I am sworn to secrecy. Just
If
know
he's
it's
caught or
gonna be-
killed, the secretary will disavow all knowledge of his action.
Indeed, indeed. And Ronan Buddy.
Can I say one more thing on Eric?
Please.
It's because he also pointed out the potential of them doing a Splatoon attraction down there if they can, work it out with Nintendo. And I will say, I mean, that's something that kind of writes itself. You could do a paintball tournament, and Splatoon is basically a game that's a lot like 1990s Nickelodeon, like the cartoon style, and there's ink that goes everywhere, which is a lot like the Nickelodeon slime. They have a history, with Nickelodeon at Universal. I think that could be a lot of fun for people of all ages and background, even if you're not gamers. So I think it could be a diverse type brand. But I think there's some potential with your idea there, Eric. But sorry, Vash, go ahead.
I think
you're fine.
That Lost Content has all the caves and tunnels and a place for a show. Wicked would be perfect in there if that's where they wanted to put. That could definitely be an easy place if they wanted to do some kind of Wicked. You do hear rumors of Lord of the Rings. Holy crap! If that would be what they would do, it'd be like a show or something. I do keep hearing Zelda. That would be the Zelda castle. It'd be perfect because then you got a restaurant, you got all kinds of things. You could change all that entire area to Zelda's land.
And I know
Leon said Lord of the Rings too, so it's like that would. My goodness, if they put Lord of the Rings there, then you walk into Harry Potter, like what the heck? That would be wild, man.
It would be.
I know
I don't see Lord of the Rings.
I'm always given flack for this, but I'm sorry, Mythos sucks. Best restaurant in Orlando. Boom.
No,
the food is mediocre. The place is louder than a bowling alley, and the service is mediocre too. And I just.
What? I love Mythos. Oh my goodness. Yeah. You get the goblet, that big goblet of alcohol, that'll get you through the entire day.
Harry Potter and the goblet of alcohol. That sounds like
the goblet of alcohol. My goodness gracious.
Alcohol, astrakhan, whatever they call it. I don't know.
Oh boy.
I'll take you. Then we'll make sure you have a better experience.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Eric Stratton. Seriously, I know you gave a similar super chat actually with our 007 Hollywood Backlight with Lou and you. Very much appreciate everything you do. Thank you so much. Ronan Buddy talking about rumors about Diagon Alley coming to Universal. Yes, that has been in the works for a long time. We'll have to see whether or not it gets around this time, but trust me, Universal Studios Hollywood.
Getting from Orlando to Hollywood is more horizontally than diagonally, but that's just anyway.
And I saw that Gavin Howell early in the chat was asking about some people and how they're not necessarily as enthusiastic about Universal and its developments in the future. Maybe coming in with
Disney stockholders, huh?
Yes, exactly. Maybe coming in with a Disney bias. I'll say this. There are some people in the various communities that have their identities very tied to one company or another. So that might explain why some people are maybe as enthusiastic about the other brand succeeding or so forth. Me, I could care less. Whether it's Universal, whether it's Disney, it doesn't matter. As long as either or both are doing something, I think it's better for everyone.
It's that great old movie musical line where he says, it doesn't matter if it's the lilting rhythms of Bill Shakespeare's verse or the lilting rhythms of Bill Robinson's feet. It's all entertainment.
It's all entertainment. Indeed. Matt B with 499. Could Wicked replace Springfield in Orlando? Timing might work out with expiration of Simpsons. I think it could. Jay, what do you think about that?
Pokemon. I think Pokemon's coming.
I think so too.
Or you know what they should do? This is what they should do. They should make that whole section the classic Universal. Put Back to the Future back in. Put like the old King Kong ride in there somewhere. Then you got E.T. is still hanging out over there as well. Just make that like a nostalgia walkthrough. That's all you get. You already got the rides in the back room there, so you might as well just stick it up.
I've heard Mummy, though, Jay.
It's an easy transformation.
I've heard Mummy might get changed. Not Mummy. Men in Black. Sorry.
Yeah.
Men in Black.
Stop
might be
scaring
changed.
me.
Sorry about that. Might be changed out to Ghostbusters. So
I
think
have
about
heard
it.
that too.
Yeah,
Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, all that kind of good
All
stuff.
right there.
that would be cool.
I think it'd be
Don't get me
perfect because
wrong.
you got Epic Universe, you know, like that's where a lot of people are gonna want to go. So put them out there for the old nostalgia, man. Like a kick in the face. Nostalgia.
Let's remember that a lot of the I go to Disney, I don't go to Universal crowd that's now going to sample Universal because of Epic has probably never been to Universal Studios or Islands of Adventure either. So all of that will be new to them and exciting to them, I think. So I'm not so certain that the other two parks are going to so miserably pale by comparison to the new thing, especially with these package ticket price deals that they're doing.
I'd have to agree, Lou, because also let's remember you're talking about ticket deals right now for opening week of Universal, which granted most people going are going to be diehards stuff like that. They did not offer any single day tickets. They only offered ones that you have to go to the park for like at least 3 days. So say the amount not be as big for the casual park goer, but if you're trying to get into this, you're kind of forced, quote unquote, to experience some of the other parks, even if you've never done them before, or you're gonna want to get your money's worth, so you're gonna have to spend a bit more time in them. What's going to happen? It's going to be a domino effect. People are going to go in, really like what they experience, and going to get a lot more people to come along with them for future visits.
And as I keep saying, of all the stupid, dumb, idiotic things that Disney has done in the last 5 years or longer, getting rid of the bus ride from the airport was the dumbest thing in history. Because
it was magical.
It's called
Disney Magical
captive
Express.
audience.
Yeah.
And if you were Disney and there's this Epic thing, but we got to rent a car, we got to get an Uber, we got to pay money. Let's just stay here. That's why we bought it here,
So I don't know if you heard this tale, my friend. They're building a whole new train transit system here called the Bright Line, and they went to Disney and said, "Hey, we need some acres of land and about $100 million, and we'll build a train stop right in front of Disney Springs or close to one of your parks." Disney went to them and said, "We're Disney. You need to spend your own money so you'll get more people to be on the train." Universal heard this and said, "We'll give you more land and more money if you build a train stop right in front of Epic Universe." And they said, "Okay, no problem."
Which, of course, serves the convention center, too.
Yeah.
And what I heard about the Disney thing was they said, you can bring the people here by train, but when they get off, they have to take Disney buses and things to their hotel, and you can't bring baggage on the Disney bus.
So they lost.
So unless you're coming with a backpack, you're screwed. So
well, that's the thing. Like people from Miami and Tampa, they want to hop on the train and spend the day at Universal and then go back home. It's
travelers from overseas who want to fly into Orlando and out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or vice versa can do that so easily now, or will be set up.
Disney's playing with some fire there, because I don't know what it's like for the Florida locals, but around here, those trains are known as being some very dangerous things. And I'm just hearing all the headlines about sacrifices to the trains. So
at least they go somewhere, unlike in California where they go from nowhere to nowhere. So
the Bright Line, the new train system, is fantastic. I've been on it multiple times, and it's the best thing going if you want to get to Miami or get to Fort Lauderdale. And I hope they connect it up to St. Augustine, because I love St. Augustine. And it is
from there to Jacksonville
it's amazing. It is. I love it. Sure. So very safe, put all your luggage on there, get going. So it's really cool. But sadly, I must depart.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I only had an hour.
No, you're fine. You're
honored.
fine.
I'm honored for the invite and all you amazing people here that love theme parks and love talking about. I freaking love it. I love it. I'm glad to know I'm not alone.
Absolutely, sir. Jay, you can find Jay.
Park hopping. There I am.
That's right. Drink 3PO at Park hopping. Was there anything else you want me to promote, good sir?
No, that's it. That's it. Like, head over to Park hopping and you will find Vash. He comes on our live streams on Mondays at 3:00, where we talk about park stuff too, as well, for about an hour. So we have a great time over there. And lastly, I'm going to leave you with this. The day Epic Universe opens, all the Disney adults here in Florida are trying to rally the troops and all head over to Magic Kingdom so that they could tell their loyalty and not let Magic Kingdom feel as if it's been forgotten. So I might be over there. I might head over to the Magic Kingdom.
Will there be 3 or 4 rides open when they get there?
Just to see what it's like while everybody else is at Epic Universe.
Oh, jeez.
We'll see. God bless you guys. Have a great one. Vash, I'll talk to y'all really soon.
This was great.
Hi, Jay. Good seeing you.
Have a good one, Jay.
Very much appreciate that. Jay's Park Hopping is going to be in the chat right there. So please go ahead and give that channel a subscribe. And yes, I do make weekly appearances on there now. It is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, Vash, you underestimate yourself. If you make an appearance, it's a strongly appearance, not a weekly appearance.
No.
Anyway.
That's a fair point. Ronan Buddy making a strong appearance here with the 999. If SpongeBob is coming to Texas, could Universal add other Nickelodeon properties like Rango, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Avatar TLA to their parks? Also, if it would have been cool if the parks received Transformers 1. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, Transformers 1, that could have been interesting for sure. I know they want to make it very kid-centric and they want to get those hottest properties that the kids are all loving there.
Isn't it interesting in that regard that Frisco is going to have Jurassic?
Yes.
That doesn't seem on the surface like a kid's thing, but it's like, oh, you'll get to meet all the cute little dinosaurs before you go to the ones that eat you at the other park. I thought that was a brilliant but unexpected piece of IP for that park.
She might be able to answer this, but we are missing probably the second most dominant kids brand after SpongeBob. Where's Bluey? Who owns the rights to Bluey?
Now that's an interesting proposition. Because remember the whole East Coast, West Coast Marvel stuff that goes on between Disney and Universal and Tower of Terror. When people were talking about what IP will they put in England, my thought, and I have no rumors, no information, just my imagination. Some imagination, huh? Is that Bluey will go to UK as their kids thing, as their How to Train Your Dragon section, which would be amazing.
I don't know how far the recently acquired theme park rights for Bluey go, because I don't know if they're like Marvel rights where they're within a geographical area, but Disney did just announce that Bluey was going to be coming to the U.S. theme parks, both Walt Disney World and Disneyland eventually.
Well, we should mention this is the second time they've announced it. The first time they did it without the rights and stuck them in the campground. And
that's true.
Oops, we don't own that. We better pull it out of there.
Yeah, that didn't last long. But
now, was this deal made with BBC that acts as the distributor of the show, or was it with what's it called, Lupo Studios, the one in Australia that actually makes it? Okay, Ludo, that's it.
Yeah. So they're working closely along with BBC and Ludo to actually bring this to life. We'll have to see what the future brings, but not going to get that. But Ronan, I think you make a good point, because those franchises are being featured in Universal so prominently. That does create opportunities for them to obviously make their way to their larger destinations in a big way, which they had before. It's just that relationship kind of fallen off a little bit there.
I also wonder, when it said that they're going to put Bluey into the cruise ships, if that's to make up for the falling popularity of the Marvel stuff that's on the cruise ships now.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. It could have been. Could have been indeed. I think it'll be a boon no matter where Bluey goes, because we know how popular it is on Disney Plus. But speaking of cruise ships and speaking of water and speaking of Disney, I don't know if this is a good transition or not, but Rivers of America. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, over there at Walt Disney World, but WW Pro just shared an exclusive scoop on the Pro show at the top of the show that is, talking about the Rivers of America at Disneyland. Apparently, a source did reach out to Pro, talking about how there was a plan, at least, and it was being developed. I don't know to what extent, but there was a plan to get rid of at least the back half of Disneyland's Rivers of America here in California. Now, that's a very interesting idea.
Ain't gonna happen.
and see that's
I
what
don't
said.
believe it for a minute. I really don't.
Apparently, okay. So I'll lay out the plan of what it was, and then we'll break it down here. So apparently involved the upper half of Tom Sawyer's Island, and it would have left a kind of donut loop at the front of Rivers of America. So all of the restaurants and I'm guessing a lot of the shops and attractions that take advantage of it, at least at the front, would get their scenic views and so forth. You could still allow Phantasma to go, although the ships might be staged very closely in this upper section here. But all of this, these 4 acres roughly above the back half of Tom Sawyer's Island, would all be taken up and replaced. I kind of want to throw it to, the Disneylanders here. Noah, feel free to jump in. What do you think the thought process there was?
The thought process was that somebody on the West Coast said, well, they're getting it on the East Coast. Here's my great idea of the day. They probably won't do it, but what the hell? I think this is about internal, gee, look what I thought of politics and not anything that's going to happen because they don't get enough in return for it. They really don't. Yeah. And because they're doing all this stuff supposedly across the street for the expansion, and so I don't see it happening. I just don't. And that's not because I am some sort of traditionalist, whatever, which I am, I guess. But besides which, when they did the cut last time to put in Galaxy's Edge,
yep,
they put a lot of stuff into that.
Huge.
The bridge with the beavers chewing on it, and
that bridge that you're talking about with the beaver right there, that's actually where they put all the rafts and boats for Phantasmic that they're using. It goes underneath the waterfall. You can't see it because the waterfall is going on right there, but when the waterfall is not going, you can actually see.
That building.
There usually is a curtain down. They lift the curtain, and then that's what the watercraft then come from. You can see an edge there, like a hard edge here. That's the underground marina that is there. Look, it is a real operation there. But sorry, go ahead, please, Bob.
Oh no, and I think Lou's on the right track. That this was just a hey, what if we did this type thing. I don't think they're going to do anything with all the backlash they've been getting anyhow. Plus, the Rivers of America for Disneyland are quite a bit different than Walt Disney World. I mean, first of all, this was something that Walt had his hands on. He formed and created this whole island with, it's Tom Sawyer's Island. I still call it that instead of Pirates Island. But, I just don't foresee them doing anything to this. Now, there's some wasted areas on here, I'll tell you, because at the top part of the island where we were just looking by the bridge there, where the fort is, nothing's being used. Obviously they use it for storage or whatnot, but they don't use it for the guests. Now, to the right of that, across the way where Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland used to be, that used to be Cascade Peak. Nothing is being used in that whole area right there. So they could definitely do something with that. And I would be cool if they decided to, because, they're not, they let the train track go to waste and that whole, it's kind of hard to see where you're spinning there, but that's old bear country, by the way. A lot of people don't realize it, but that whole area is where they call the bear country, and that was bear country. So they had little, fake bears in the water catching fish that were, jumping, which are fake fish, and the Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland would go right past that over into the desert area before it went to the Rainbow Caverns and whatnot. So it was really, really something cool, but they just don't utilize that space. There's so much they could do if they wanted to do something without destroying the river itself.
My idea would be to have a load area on this side, queue, all of that, and then actually have your attraction take place on the island. Not too dissimilarly that we see with Big Thunder Mountain Railroad out there at Disneyland Paris. That's just me, though. Because we don't have like a Seven Dwarfs Mine Train type coaster. I think that would be kind of cool for Disneyland. But moreover, I want to put this to bed because a lot of people, Bob, I don't know if you've been on Twitter at all, but there was a lot of people on Twitter that were like, if this happens here, it could happen here. And it's like, hang on a second. Just like Bob and Lou were talking about here, it's a very, different operation at Disneyland. Okay,
Plus,
There is
as
many-
they mentioned on the pro show earlier, you guys, all the water's connected
yes.
Right.
at Disneyland. It's all
Yes.
connected.
So a lot of
So I was
people
gonna
don't
bring this
realize
up
it,
here.
but the water that from Jungle Cruise comes down and cascades over into, and here we go. See, cascades into Rivers of America. It also cascades over to the castle, and then
Which goes
from
back
those
to back
areas,
before
Right, it
New
goes to
Orleans
motor
Square when
boats.
everything ended at the Swift restaurant there.
Mhm.
Yes.
So,
So-
and a lot of people don't realize that bridge or that walkway where you go down to Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, that's where that waterway goes down and into the Rivers of America from Jungle Cruise. So, to me, they can't. If they were to do anything with our Rivers of America, it would really kind of ruin this whole river system that they have, or water
It
system.
would be much more complicated and therefore much more expensive, and therefore
Exactly.
they're not going to do it because it's not worth the money to do it.
So
I think.
So, I don't disagree with you. The pump system in order to circulate this water actually occurs at the Indian Village right there. It serves a dual purpose, and there's I think a 25 horsepower circulating pump that actually circulates the water from Rivers of America over to the castle moat right there, and those get sectioned off to Storybook Lane Canal boats and motorboat. The motorboat cruise area, but then it goes through the Snow White's Grotto area, and that water gets circulated over to like the edge of
Goes
Frontierland.
down there under the bridge entrance to Adventureland.
Under
you know what's
Adventureland.
funny?
Oh, please.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well,
Safe.
it goes down near Cheeky Room, past Tropical Hideaway, then to Jungle Cruise, and up into the Adventureland Treehouse, and then back over to Rivers of America. So it's kind of how that whole thing works right there. It's a very intricate and very interesting system. Go ahead, please, Bob.
Oh, I was going to say, originally Walt wanted Tomorrowland to be over there by the Rivers of America, but he didn't do it because he realized he had to have some place to have the Jungle Cruise water run off over into Rivers of America. So that's why Tomorrowland's off to the right instead of the left.
You are dead on, my friend. That is absolutely the case. He did definitely want to have Tomorrowland over there, but didn't quite work out. And I think Jungle Cruise over on the west side, I think, is the best side. But then that's just the river system, folks. In terms of revenue, off the chain right here. There's as many as 7 restaurants in the immediate proximity of the Rivers of America that take advantage of scenic views of the river. What is it? The
Not to
list
mention those
includes-
expensive but good packages with Fantasmic.
and those
I
dining
wouldn't say
packages.
good packages, but they're packages.
The last time I was there, it was good. I don't know what it's like now, but we did the Blue Bayou, and it came out all right. And you got this nifty seat cushion.
They don't have those anymore, Lou. Sorry. That was a great experience back then. It's a
Well-
terrible. I'm not going to say it's a terrible experience, but let me say that you're spending a lot of money to sit on your bottom without a cushion there.
Ah.
So
No, you guys are saying that these restaurants utilize the water for the scenery and all that. You mean to tell me you don't want to take your girl to a high class restaurant, get on one knee and propose to her, and have Lightning McQueen going ka-chow in the background of the restaurant? Is that what you're telling me?
No. That's not what I'm saying at all. But and actually, it's funny. I just saw a proposal. I think the second to last stream I did there, which was kind of funny.
Oh wow,
That's cool.
But the thing is that Vash is right. There's so many restaurants around here. You got the River Bell, right? You've got
Cafe Orleans.
what's that? Cafe Orleans, right? You got Tiana's
Hungry Bear
Palace.
Jamboree. Tiana's
Hungry
Palace.
Bear Barbecue Jamboree, right?
Stage
what
door
else?
with its extended seating area
Stage
around
door, that's true.
Royal Street Veranda.
See, just keep
Harbor
naming
Galley.
them. Harbor
I mean,
Galley.
it goes on. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
Gosh, check your back channel. I put up a couple pictures I took when Galaxy's Edge was being built when I was up in the cockpit driving the Twain. And then there's one of the seat cushion in question with both sides, for Blue Bayou on one side and Fantasmic on the other.
Yes,
Just
sir,
to
yes,
show
sir.
what it used to be.
Go ahead, Bob, please.
Oh no, I was just complimenting you and saying keep going. You got all the places to name off anyhow. So
No, it's you're talking about 7 distinct restaurants in and around that immediate area right there that all take advantage of the river's edge. And in fact, Pelican's Landing was an expansion project to expand the seating to take advantage of more scenic area of the river. Okay, the idea that they would actually remove that is, quite frankly, it's absurd. Here's some photos that Lou took of his time at the top of the Mark Twain. Oh, jealous.
I know.
Yeah.
For
Got to
sure.
do the shave and a haircut horn trick with the train when it went by, too. And there you go. This was the seat cushion they gave you as part of the dining package. See Blue Bayou on the left and Fantasmic on the right. I've still got them.
And they don't do those anymore, which is really most unfortunate right there. But yes, those dining packages, by the way. So you're talking, because somebody I was having a discussion with on Twitter was saying, wait a minute, you could replace the river and make it into an e-ticket with a lightning lane service attached. And it's like, okay, well, first of all, you don't quite know the Californian populace as opposed to the Floridian populace if you think that lightning lane is going to be saturated on an ongoing basis by the annual pass of the population out there at Disneyland. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
The lightning lane sales just they aren't as saturated, I will say, as Florida is. But maybe you get that for the first 3 years. Well, a typical e-ticket attraction does what, 1,500 people per hour, right? On a what is it, a 16-hour operating day, which has the park open at 8 a.m. and then close at midnight. You're talking, I think it's something like 24,000 roughly people that can ride on that attraction each day. Even if you were to increase it to 80%, let's say, of lightning lane versus standby guests, which would be absurd, you'd get to about $500,000, which sounds like a lot, but they already do that today in terms of the fantastic dining packages that they sell. Remember, it's 2 shows, and each show has about 6,000 to 9,000 people, and a large percentage of which actually buy dining packages for that show. It equates roughly to what they sell in Fantasmic dining packages. And again, the revenue, the operations of the park, they're baked into the river. It's just not the same thing as it is over there in Magic Kingdom.
And it's not just the money for the dining packages. It's that you stick around to do them.
Right.
Yes.
You have people in the park longer and therefore theoretically spending more money on other things too.
And on the west side, because Lou, you know, and Bob, you've seen this too, if they don't have any shows going on in the west side of the park at that time, like no Fantasmic or no fireworks viewing locations and so forth, that part of the park is kind of dead without those things.
Which
is the whole reason
best.
Well, remember, that's why they brought Fantasmic in, because they wanted
exactly.
to breathe new life into Rivers America and that whole area, and it did. And it was very successful.
I see It's Florentin in the chat saying, I would be up for Lightning McQueen, dudes. Well, you've got him and then some across the Esplanade in DCA. Yep. And it's a great ride.
It is.
It's a ride better than anything I've seen proposed for the rivers in Orlando.
Mm-hmm. Can't see it right now, but it's there.
I will tell you guys too, just my advice, if you're thinking about doing the dining package, unless you really think you need it, I would avoid it, because I'll tell you right now, especially if you can catch the second Fantasmic show, you can get just as close or a better view than what you would get. I mean, because the thing is, yes, you do get front and center for, like the Blue Bayou one, but some of the other ones you're kind of off to the side. Well, they let the cast members actually let people into those areas that you have paid to reserve if they have extra room, which typically is most of the time. And so you could save yourself a lot of money just by not buying the dining package.
And those cast members know what the occupancy is going to be based on the sales of the dining packages. So
correct.
Right,
exactly.
200 here and 100 there.
Correct.
Yeah.
I love these aerial shots. So cool.
Oh, it is absolutely fantastic. And speaking of a little bit of what they actually had to do in order to retain the river as much as they could anyway for the inclusion of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, they had to replace a whole bunch of maintenance facilities, dance halls, performing areas, and so forth, and relocate those all across Anaheim. In fact, they just actually spent, $124 million on a 2-building warehouse within the proximity of the park. I think it was like 400,000 square feet, maybe, a place that they used to lease, now they permanently own, in order to make up for what they lost along the river's edge there for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. My point is that if they believed that the park was better without the river than with it, it would have been gone already. So that's kind of my take on it. It's an idea. It's a concept. I'm not saying it's completely impossible that it would happen. It's just very unlikely. But we'll see. We'll have to see. the incompetence knows no bounds. And speaking of incompetence, this is a little story to end this whole show on right here. Bob, are you familiar with the Reds Community Garden area?
The Reds Community Garden area. It sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Enlighten me.
Oh, okay. I thought you had already seen it. Well,
I might have, but let's see. Throw it in there and let's see.
So starting.
Oh yes, that area.
Starting last month, they were doing a lot of work on the Cozy Cone Hotel, which is a series of not table service, but what is it? Quick service restaurants over there in Carsland, right? At Disney
better.
California Adventure. It looks a lot better, but they also added this seating area right adjacent to it, and it looks pretty good right here. You can see them working on it with these construction walls right here. The idea was that the back half of the hotel actually be a central ordering window, because previously you had to go to every single one of these cones in order to get the item that you wanted, and they were all split up. I think one served ice cream, one served chili cone carne, I believe. Right?
Why do you even need construction walls? You already have construction cones up.
That's true. that's
that's funny. Point. I know this whole area you're talking about. I didn't know they're calling it Red's community garden.
Yes. So they installed this pergola, as you see right there, to provide you an awning type structure to introduce you to this expanded seating area. Okay, and the red is obviously Red the fire truck, one of the car's characters there. You can see what this pergola actually looks like. Nolan is laughing hysterically for good reason, because a week after this pergola was actually displayed and shown to the public, it was behind curtains, which is a little strange. Not quite sure what's going on there. You can see this. It was still wrapped up as of February 16, 2025. Well, now it's behind full walls.
What? Heck?
Well, that's certainly charming compared to the original not.
Right.
It's got,
you went from these walls to these walls. These provided by Marty Snyder, actually. So thank you so much for that. But why in the world? This is a pergola. This is an awning. Okay, this is a structure that you buy at like a Lowe's or a Home Depot. Why on earth is this behind walls right after it was debuted? Please, somebody enlighten me.
So, did he get canceled? Was there something problematic with him? What did poor Red do?
Well, I don't know if you looked. Go back to the picture of the Reds Community Garden that's kind of close up.
Yes.
We had a lot of rain when they put it up. And you'll notice that it looks like there's some... Is that damage up there, or is that just...
It's either paint streaking from the rain, or it's bird poop, one or the other.
Yeah, it looks like it's actually coming off. So maybe they're having some issues and they need to go back and cover it up, because we did have quite a bit of rain there for 2 weeks straight, especially during the Halloween, Valentine's weeks. So remember, I had to deal with all that fun rain for Sweet Heights night over at Disneyland. So it could have been maybe they were having some issues. They covered it up to protect it. It didn't, it got ruined or destroyed somehow. So now they've covered up completely so they can actually redo it, work on it. That's my only thought.
It's funny because go back to the wide shot of that structure. I saw it and I thought, God, did they copy something that's at Yacht and Beach or the Boardwalk? It's that kind of a style,
Get your 11 herbs and spices from Red.
It actually does. Yeah, exactly. It actually does look looks a little beat up. I'm not sure why. Okay,
look along the base of it. It reminds me of the San Francisco, whatever, Torrigate.
Yes. You know what? That's interesting. It really does. But isn't that like an afternoon paint, boom, up? Why in the world do we have this area walled off? And from what I understand, it still hasn't made a reappearance. So I don't know if it's structural or if it's just paint or whatever.
Too. Is there anything?
Yeah, very ugly walls, by the way. I think I was having this conversation with Deborah. She's like, "What the heck?
That's not go away green. That's get out of town brown."
Frontierland wood. There we go.
That's
yes, the Frontierland area.
outhouse. I don't know, ochre, whatever.
Outhouse oak.
I love
okay.
all those like it was fugly.
And if you were going to do it in that wood, what, they couldn't buy any tall enough, so they had to put burlap.
That's a good point.
The ultimate irony, and they replaced a fire truck with a flammable post thing here. Like, why?
It's the tinder box is what they replaced it with.
And what the beam
no, don't
across
go
the,
there.
oh, I see. It's wrinkles. In that other shot, it almost looked like Polynesian stuff on the beam going across.
Oh, I see. Bob, we can't get a gift shop open without proper drainage. Okay, we can't
Don't
get
even go
Red's
there.
community garden, a pergola outside. We can't get a functioning, what is it, meet and greet hall, Communicore hall over there in Epcot. Bob, what is going on? Why can't we have anything new come in without some work taking place? This happened with Toontown multiple times.
Wait. There was a story the other day about replacing the floors at Tortuga Cafe and how that didn't work out, and they're redoing it and it's shut down. And
That's a fair point.
I mean,
What's going on?
It's not being planned properly. Like, to be honest with you, when I see the responses from Kim Irvine, and she's talking about, oh well, we worked on this and we planned this. Like, did you really work on it hard? Did you plan it well? Because I don't think you did. I will tell you something, and I don't think I told you this the other day, Vash, but so when I went into the actual store on Thursday of last week, I noticed that there was a mildew smell inside the store. And it was right at the front there where it's boarded off. And I was like, ooh, that is not good. It's got a little bit of mildew smell in here. That's terrible.
I agree.
So when I went on Sunday night this past week, just a handful of days later, I'm walking out of the exit of the Haunted Mansion, and the smell of mildew was so bad, it was coming out of the store, like reeking out of the store. And I'm like, what the heck? I mean, it's gotten tenfold worse. And what I just don't understand is I can't understand how they could, they didn't properly plan it out. I mean, you would have thought, hey, we're going to get in there. We're going to take care of this mold. We're going to make sure it smells nice in here so the guests don't have to smell this mold. Because I'm telling you right now, that mildew is turning into black mold. That can't be good for everyone.
no,
And
it reminds me of the sewage leak at the Land, and days later the roof caves in. It's like, if you had a leak, wouldn't you want to go check that out before you let people that might sue you walk under it? Yeah,
exactly. So it just boggles me that we can't. It's an issue we're having, and I'm not just blaming Imagineers, but this should all be thought out beforehand. And we never had these issues before. No, I'm not gonna say we never had, but they were minor compared to what we have today. Given the fact that, and you're right, Vash, I remember when Toontown opened, I just started doing my channel. You and I were talking about it. I was sending you photos of the fountain not working and all sorts of other issues we were having. And it's like, oh, well, that's kind of weird. That normally doesn't happen. And then what happens with Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and then the Haunted Mansion store, and then now this. It's like, why do we keep having these issues and problems? It's ridiculous. And I don't know if I told you, but they actually had Animation Academy completely shut down, and that whole area inside, when it was raining, I forgot to take photos and tell you. Well, I couldn't take any real photos inside, but if you wanted to go see Turtle Taco Crush or do the Animation Academy, you had to enter from the side. Like employee entrance
off the
area.
page. Oh
Yes.
no, not even on that side.
So you by off the page, you would go in towards the bathrooms, but instead of going to the bathrooms, you go back through the cast member way to the left into Turtle Talk with Crush. If you wanted to see Animation Academy, you had to wait in front of the building, go all the way around the corner towards Guardians of the Galaxy, and enter to that side entrance, which is the emergency exit for Animation Academy. And they were having some leaking issues. And I forgot to tell you about that, but it was like, what is going on here? Why are we having so many building issues here? So yes, so right there, see that side door to the, let's see, go on the side of the building there with your mouse.
Yep.
No, the other way.
The other way?
Okay. Well, I was showing you Animation Academy, but okay, so no, go back. Now you're turning it again. Okay, so there's the side door. Whoops.
We believe
that
you.
little side door where the sign is. That's where the entrance was. And then over here, Turtle Taco Crush, see where that bush is that's on the side of the building? You would go through that back area by that bush and enter to the left. So that's how you were entering because it was raining so bad. And they were having leaking issues.
I mean, it's like they haven't been in the theme park business. It's like this company was bought out by somebody else. You know, it's the weirdest thing. We don't have anybody competent to do these things once.
Well, we've been talking about this, right? About maintenance in the park and how things don't seem to be
senior maintenance heads need to roll.
Well, my issue is that it's not the way things used to be, and I don't know why we've gotten so lax on stuff like this. It's almost like, and I know Disney's claiming, oh, we're hurting for money. They cannot be hurting for money in the theme parks, that's for sure. I know the rest of the companies are hurting, and a lot of the money that the company's bringing in for theme parks is going to those other areas. But seriously, if you start laxing on the maintenance in the park, you're going to become like Six Flags. And no offense to Six Flags and Cedar Fairs, it's just merged with Six Flags, but Six Flags is dilapidated in many of the parks, and they have not kept up on the paint. They've not kept up on making everything look nice and fresh, and it's really suffered over the years, and now they're having to make up for that. And Disney used to, I don't know if you remember this, but Imagineers would come out. They would come out at night, not the Imagineers, but the maintenance workers, and they would touch everything up with paint, and they would fix things, and everything would look fresh the next day.
I remember a documentary, whatever, of a guy whose entire job was polishing the brass on Main Street every night.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if he's still around.
And it creates more jobs for more people. And I know some people might think, well, we're in the day and age, with all the smartphones and stuff like that. Like, it's so much easier to catch them when something's going wrong. Well, to that, I would say the phones have had cameras on them for a good long while now. People had access to cameras. They had access to Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, all that. Something changed in quality. And they neglected it, and that over time will just pile up in the theoretical thing you're pushing under the rug. And over time, if the quality is not there, and that disappears, your audience is going to disappear too. And it's better.
Yeah, the phrase "nobody will notice" should have been banned from everybody's vocabulary around the emergence of the cell phone with a camera.
That's a really good point.
Well, and just like Vash brought up last week on our show, when we were talking about that, that boarded up area that's right in front of Astro Orbiter, that has been there since 2019. And you were talking about how they had to replace the photo and everything, or the picture, the painting. It's like that has been there forever. When are they going to take that out? I know they dug up the dirt and they found pipes and electrical work and don't know where it goes, but this just goes along with all the other stuff that we're talking about right now. It's like we've got a lot of things that they need to keep up on, and they're just not happening.
I got to tell you, I left California several years ago now. If I was still living there and saw this, I would think, what about for my house? Can I get a decent plumber? Can I get a decent electrician? Can I get a decent appliance repair guy? Has the quality of the status quo gone so low that Disney is falling to it or exceeding it or what? But it's scary. It really is. The incompetence level. And you can only lose your reputation once.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing too. They have maintenance people on site that can take care of this and work on this stuff. And I know it's a big, huge park, but back in the day, if something needed to be done, it was done. Like for example, and I know we're talking 1955 here, but there's what we were talking about. I was talking about earlier, but 1955 grand opening day, there were so many problems in the park, right? I mean, it's unfortunate, but there were. Bob Gurr, one of his biggest issues was the cars kept breaking down in Autopia. Walt says, what do you need? He goes, we need a maintenance bay and we need some maintenance workers. Boom. Next day, Shed comes in, you got your maintenance bay, and they have maintenance workers. And he continued to do stuff like that. And that's how they operated when Walt was alive. But and they kind of kept that tradition for many years with trying to make sure that the park was nice and maintained. But now it just seems like they're not doing it on a regular basis like they used to. And I know they have 2 theme parks now compared to the one, but still, it just seems like they should be looking for these things on what they can do to, instead of being reactive, they should be proactive on this stuff.
Absolutely.
And they're not even reactive when you consider the time it takes them to react.
That's
true, right?
That's a good
Good
Right.
point.
If it takes you that long to duck when a punch is being thrown your way, I'm sorry, you still took the punch in the face. You got that knuckle sandwich, bro.
Yep.
Yeah, but I was good
Oh,
at him,
geez.
Nolan. Honest, I was. Yeah.
It's just, I
shoulda, coulda,
it's
woulda.
so frustrating. Look, Bob, I mean, the
Yes.
days of, fly by night and, hey, we'll get you anything you need, I think are long behind us, which is fine. Look, in 2005, right, when Matt came in and said, hey, you know what, we're going to go ahead and get this place ready for the 50th anniversary. We're going to have preventative maintenance. It was a good schedule that lasted for a few years there. And all of a sudden, it's just turned completely sour, and I have no idea why projects like this take forever. I have no idea why. I mean, look at the Adventureland restrooms, right? The whole waterfall feature in front of there. We have two lands right at the hub that have walls outside of them perpetually, because why? I mean, there's no reason for it, and it's just very frustrating as a guest.
And
especially
one more point.
please.
What does it cost? If you're paying for a premium experience and not getting it,
Yes.
that hurts in this day and age.
Yeah.
That hurts, and people say I'm not going back, and so they shoot themselves in the foot in the long run as well as in the individual moment.
And isn't
Absolutely.
it cheaper to fix it before it becomes a bigger problem, and then instead of throwing it on to the next person who's going to be hired here in a few years, because you obviously won't be with the company much longer than about 4 to 5 years?
The
It should
walls. Wasn't there 2 rounds of walls, Bob, for the grassy area next to the entrance of Toontown?
Yeah, there were.
It's just, you would think you would get that right the first time, but hey, you know
Right.
what? Hey, maybe we did mess up. Gotta get it right the second time. It couldn't even do that right.
No, I know, but that's what was so disappointing. It's like you had all this time to work on Toontown, and then guess what? We got to shut down this area and fix this area. Oh, we got to shut down this area. We got to go back and fix this area again because it wasn't right the first time. That's what's so disappointing. And then what's even worse is like the fountain. The fountain was amazing, and now granted, we had a lot of people play with the fountain or touch things and break things, and that's really unfortunate. That should not happen. However, what's their solution? Put in things that they cannot move, break, and the fountain doesn't work like it did when it first opened. It's not as majestic as it was. However, I will tell you, I don't know if you noticed this, but they actually made the flower on Mickey's hat squirt water out now, which is kind of cool.
Whoa, that's a
Yes.
big development right there, because that fountain, they said it would have like nighttime or nightly performances or something like that. That never really materialized. Okay. Did we ever see the Donald Duck's water play area open?
Nope.
And I'll tell you something else. The whole issue of the delay in getting around to fixing these things, a lot of it's because nobody wants to admit they made a mistake in the first place.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you don't even start to take action or plan action for a month or 2 or 3, because that would mean admitting there's a problem and it might be blamed on you. Where are you? Where are you? You're where these people are.
Now, I will
don't
say
know.
that place that you're just showing right there with the tree trunks, it looks like they've taken care of that issue, and that's been open, and we haven't had any other things. But like going back over to Goofy's Learn to Play area, and some of the things they had over there with the the rocking horses and the the little flowers that spun around, they took some of those out and never put them back. I mean, it's just really disappointing. And here we are, we're almost 2 years after Toontown has reopened, and we don't even have some of this stuff.
I just thought of a solution. They pick up all these walls and they make them part of the Monsters Inc. door and wall ride.
There you go. You got your old built-in.
It's not a bug; it's a feature, because you put little hooks and a cable above them and say, "Well, it's coming."
I think one of the reasons, Bob, why this area is now fixed is because they lined it with benches to prevent people from walking through it as they would enter Toontown from the main thoroughfare right there. Bad planning.
Which I'm glad they did in the first place, because they're like, oh, this is a wonderful park, everyone can just sit down. It's like, can we have a few more benches? So that kind of fixed it.
And I hate to be constantly referring, but I will. This is, if anything, Toontown, the kiddie area of the park, right?
Right.
Yes.
That's why it was built. Do you think How to Train Your Dragon at Epic is going to have any of this? Doesn't look like it to me.
I don't
Well,
think so.
time will tell. And we'll have to wait for them to open to find out. And hopefully that is not the case.
Yep.
Hopefully, indeed, right there. But until that time comes, well, we'll be covering the news as it happens. I know, Nolan, you're covering all kinds of stuff on your channel. Please, why don't you go ahead and tell the people where they can find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there.
Thank you very much, kind sir.
Thunder. There you go. I had to do it.
I love that. Look at that reverb.
I feel so loved. Thank you. Yes, no. You can find me at my YouTube channel at Nolan Thunder. I talk about video game mysteries, internet mysteries, the mystery of any mystery out there. I'll talk about it. But I primarily focus on video games. You can check me out my series Lost in the Files. It's a little documentary series with a mix of B-movie, horror, comedy, and documentary type stuff. So if that tickles your fancy and you like learning about like 1990s, 80s, 70s video games, anything with a good mystery to it, check out my series. I've been hard at work on a new episode. I've been doing a lot of editing work for it actually recently, so I'm hoping to have it out sometime early this year. As always, it's always a big honor to be on the show with everyone here, and if you want to hear some more of my opinions on stuff, please check me out here.
And he's been guesting with us on the Genre Guys.
Yes.
Last week was a very wonderfully twisted, dark, I think, movie called A Shock to the System with Michael Caine, written by a guy you probably know more for politics than for his Hollywood career, and that's Andrew Klavan. And coming up this week's recording, our first double feature. Lorne and Nolan and I are going to examine the wonderful world of Our Man Flint and In Like Flint. So that'll be fun. That'll be a lot of fun. And then, of course, Vash, you and I show up every Sunday, come hell or high water, and talk about stuff. And yeah, yes, there you go.
On this channel, you can see the Genre Guys 90 days after they release on the Pro channel, exclusive to members. Very, very cool. Airport just hit on this channel. Definitely give that a watch there. I am working feverishly on Alvarez Kelly in order to
get yourself a good steak to watch Alvarez Kelly with, because it's a movie about beef.
Oh, it's a movie about beef indeed. It's interesting. I was just doing the sound mixing on it actually after my appearance on the Pro Show and before the show, and boy, it's a lot of fun. So you want to go ahead and subscribe to this channel in order to see that when it releases. And yes, Hollywood Backlit with Lou and you every single Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. By the way, folks, make sure you watch that clock there, because it will be turning back a little bit as daylight saving time starts.
We're going forward.
Spring ahead.
Spring ahead.
Spring ahead. Yeah. Spring ahead. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just
get a DeLorean. You'll wind up in the right place.
It just gets confusing there. So that's going to be happening. You don't want to lose out on Hollywood Backlit with Lou and
the
you.
one we just did Sunday, you might get from that background. We delved into all the doings involving 007. So a lot of interesting,
and it was a great show.
There.
Great show. One of my very favorites. Love the history of James Bond and 007. Definitely.
And if you like movie music, we have a section called the Hollywood Jukebox or Backlot Jukebox, where I give you links to some great movie and TV, and in this case, theme park music that you might enjoy too. So there's that.
So good. Speaking of it, somebody with the theme park entertainment, however, Barry Place 28 over there, killing it over there on the channel. Bob, where can the people find you? I know you're at Barry Place 28, but you're also at Park Streamers Hangout. Tell us all about them both.
So for Barry Place, you guys can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, X, and Instagram. And then Park Streamers, we actually have our own website, as well as we have a channel on YouTube. We just had an episode last night. It was a lot of fun. Go check it out. I will be streaming in the parks on Thursday, hopefully with my dad. And then on Sunday, if I can get a reservation. And the Food and Wine Festival starts on Friday. So Soaring Over California is coming back, and I'm excited for that. So hopefully I can cover that on Sunday if I can get a reservation. And since I just hit 6,000 subs on Sunday,
Wow.
we're going to be doing a celebration stream sometime in the next 2 to 3 streams here. So definitely come hang out with me, and we're going to have a lot of fun. I'll be doing a lot of giveaways as a thank you to all my fans and viewers and subscribers. But more importantly, thank you for having me on the show. And you guys, if you haven't hit the like button for T3PO, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel, definitely do so, because Vash deserves a lot of love, and so does all the other people who come on the show with Vash. So definitely hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't.
And by the way, recently statistics came out that say that YouTube is now being watched by more people on smart TVs than it is on the internet, on computers or phones. It's all crazy. Of our content has such great graphics and such wonderful illustrations and such great, especially the strolls through the park that you do and that Lorena does. I say watch it that way on your big screen, and to heck with those boring, awful movies you were watching before.
It's kind of crazy. 49% of my viewers actually watch my show on their TVs, and I can see where they're watching from, and I'm sure Vash, you can see for T3PO as well, and it's pretty cool. The only thing is it's a little bit more difficult because you got to get on your phone to do the chat, because chats are not on TVs, but it's really, really cool. My dad just got a 77-inch TV, and my brother and I hook up for him, and he loves watching T3PO as well as my Barry Plays 28 and Park Streamers on his channel, so that he can see it in this big, huge screen. It's awesome. Oh, look at
70. What's how many? 70 what?
77 inches.
Dad,
yeah,
you're giving us all a great taste of screen envy.
Yeah.
It's why I've been incorporating as much B-roll as I have in our productions over there at that park place and so forth, because I understand people watch the show, they just don't listen to it. So I want to go ahead and provide as many visuals along with everything that we're doing over here as possible. But if you really want to get some visual content, Barry Plays 28 is the place you want to go. Thank you so much for everybody stopping in here at T3PO Live. We hope you enjoyed the show. I know I enjoyed the show. I learned a lot and had some amazing opinions on here.
And if you're watching this later because you missed it, because you missed our time slot change, remember, we're now on Tuesdays at 3. And tell your friends.
Yes. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. That's just following the pro show right there, 3 p.m. Eastern, that is. And we're going to send you on over to HCast, because HCast has all kinds of stuff that they're talking about. I'm sure they're talking about Kathleen Kennedy and everything else. So we definitely want to get you over there. But thank you so much for joining us today here on T3PO Live. Like Bob and Lou and Nolan have said, hit that like button on your way out there. Share us out, as it helps us out tremendously against the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you subscribe, and we will see you all next time. Take care, guys.